Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome. It is Thursday night. It's time for Revolutionary Change. I'm Jen Perelman.
I'm Peter Hager, and I'll be back in 2 seconds.
He can't handle being on the wrong side.
Yeah. Well, I'm more right than you are right, and you're more left
I just think you're just such a creature of habit. You just like it this way.
Perhaps.
Okay. Okay. You seem, everything looks very yellow. You guys, is Peter, like, is his coloring is yellow? I don't know. That's a little better. Yeah. That's definitely the better. Yeah.
So I made the switch because I thought I was looking too white.
Like a ghost. But that was making you look a little jaundiced. So, yeah.
I don't think I have any of those problems as far as I know.
No, you don't. But it was just very yellow.
Good evening, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Colin, please pull up that clip that I just sent you. We've obviously got a lot of different things to cover tonight, but I want to be very clear about when it comes to supporting somebody, particularly like Graham Plattner, who's running for Senate in Maine. We're supporting him in spite of the fact that he's running as a Democrat, not because he is running as a Democrat.
Colin, can you put up the QR code? Sorry, go ahead.
And what I want people to understand is that when I said that the guy Jordan Wood, who was initially running against him, who's a grifting shyster that's just in it for a career, and then all of a sudden you see Governor Mills jump into the race. Well, two things about Jordan Wood. Number one, he's very proud to have the support of both Katie Porter and super duper Zionist Brad Schneider. Why a guy who's running for the Senate in Maine is getting endorsed by a congressman in Illinois and a former congresswoman in California is so important to Maine, I'm not entirely sure. And in lieu of the fact that Governor Mills got into the race in the DSCC, which is the equivalent of the DCCC, has now formed an alliance with her for fundraising purposes, to fuck over any other candidate that would even think about getting in the race. To the credit of one of the few good people in politics, Sean Fain, head of the UAW, they have endorsed Graham Plattner for the Senate. They initially were not going to get involved, but now they're like, okay, you want to play this game? We'll have to play it too. So if there was so many bad things about Plattner, I would imagine that the UAW would have sniffed it out. But I bring this up because I want to remind everybody why we need to get the fuck away from the Democratic Party as fast as humanly possible. How it's a dying star, a fading star, if you will. And the people that are going to drive it into extinction are the very people who are supporting continuing this charade that we've been on for such a long time. And so there's a few different places that I want to approach here that I think is important. The first one is I want to sort of set the table with one of the candidates that we support, Graham Plattner. And
when you say we, who's we?
Revolutionary Change PAC.
Correct.
Which way do I have to point?
It's
That's right. You're in the studio, so you get to see the distinction that I don't get to see. But
correct.
Here's what one of the candidates we're supporting had to say regarding the shifty moves, I should say, that the Democratic establishment is up to.
Graham Plattner here, running for Senate up in Maine. I'm running against Susan Collins, AIPAC, Super PACs, the entire DC establishment. Now, I know that Janet Mills just got in this race, and you're probably receiving a mountain of fundraising texts and emails. I'm pretty new to this politics thing, but I've learned something over the past few weeks. When you donate to Chuck Schumer, when you donate to the big Democratic super PACs, what they do is share their lists with candidates that they like. They put their thumb on the scale. And what they do is they use access to those lists of donors, those lists of people who have given, like yourself, and they use that to give it to the candidates that they like.
This is one of the downsides, if not the ultimate downside, to ever having to contribute through Act Blue. This is one of the reasons why no one ever wants to contribute to Act Blue. And the good news is that with Revolutionary Change PAC, you have the option of not using Act Blue if you so choose. Why is this important? Because you may find a candidate that you like that is running for office. They happen to be running as a Democrat. Zohran Mamdani comes to mind. And you end up contributing, but the next thing you know, you're getting this bombardment every single day from other candidates like Janet Mills. When you donate to us, how do you think they get that information? They get it because Act Blue is an arm of the Democratic Party establishment.
Correct.
And so Plattner's spot on why this is such a bad thing.
But I also want to say that the reason that Act Blue has essentially a monopoly on it, and I forget the red team one, there's one on the red team too, that's the same thing. It's because of how integrated they are with compliance with the FEC. So as now somebody who is overseeing a super PAC, I cannot stand the idea that we're using Act Blue. It grosses me out. But at the end of the day, it is what is now integral in having decent compliance. We do offer Anodot, and we also can accept checks, and there's a PO box. So, I mean, there are other ways, but I understand it frustrates people, but it's one of those things where it's just ubiquitous now. Those two things are now like ubiquitous as far as compliance with the FEC. So in order for us to be able to exist, that's the menu.
And it's not the menu that we want at all.
No, but it is infinitely more efficient because it is a monopoly. So they're completely like integrated with the FEC.
Colin, please, can I please have that clip and pull the Plattner clip? So Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who I think we can both agree has been a pretty solid entertainer, he is somebody who I get in my gut. My gut tells me, and he's Ashkenazi, but my gut tells me that he's not on board with this. And he unfortunately has been very quiet about it, which again is an unforgivable offense in many respects as far as I'm concerned. But I do think for somebody who comes from the worst element of the Zionist brigade, and he has not embraced it the way that virtually every single Ashkenazi has, I'm giving him the respect of calling him an Ashkenazi by its proper terminology.
Can we say shout out to Hannah Einbinder, that girl who won that award? I forget. Her mother is from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And she's white and very Ashkenazi. So I'm just saying there's a couple.
So even though we have been very clear in the direction that we're pretty aware of where things are going with the Democratic Party establishment for 2028. It is pretty obvious that let's just say that the chips are lining up for Gavin Newsom. I don't think anybody doubts for a second that he's the one that's going to be the front runner and the favorite to get the nomination, not become the president, but certainly become the nominee in the Democratic Party. Here's some interesting tidbit that Mr. Levitt decided to point out. I didn't realize he has a podcast. I've already reached out to him to see if he would be interested in coming on our channel. We'll see what happens.
Gavin Newsom just signed a bill into law that claims to protect kids from predatory AI companions, but I don't think he's telling the truth about that. He did just sign a bill into law, but I've been talking to lawyers and policy experts about this bill, and they say it's not going to do anything, that it's chock full of the kind of loopholes and legal language that's been letting big tech off the hook for a long time. And while he signed this do-nothing bill, he vetoed a good bill that really would have held big tech's feet to the fire and made them change their products to be better for our kids. But Mr. Newsom was too scared to sign it. What was he scared of, you ask? Well, I don't think it's a coincidence that just weeks before the deadline to sign or veto all these bills that could regulate AI, big tech, Google, Meta, OpenAI launched these huge super PACs worth hundreds of millions of dollars aimed at attacking candidates who might regulate AI. And I guess Mr. Newsom was scared that if those hundreds of millions of dollars were directed at attacking him, it might hurt his chances at winning president in a few years.
Oh, thank you for that information. I appreciate that. Thank you for the heads up. I wouldn't have known that. Not that there's any universe wherein I would have supported Gavin Newsom anyway, right? Like it really, it does. I thought he was a douche before. I still think he's a douche, but I do appreciate the information.
So do I.
When he runs. So it's really frustrating and disappointing that this guy's political ambitions have now put our kids in harm's way. And it's sad because there's a lot to like about Governor Newsom, I think.
No, there isn't. And this is the bad side of what he's saying, because again, he's trying to preface it with, but I really want you to know that I think Gavin Newsom's this great guy. No, he's not, Joseph.
No.
You actually were spot on.
He's just, I mean, I guess that's just a bridge too far.
We'll finish out what he has to say, but then we're going to get to the really important part of all this.
He's been doing a good job at standing up to Donald Trump and the rise of authoritarianism in this country. But, you know, in my opinion, the rise of authoritarianism here and all over the world originates in large part with these algorithms, these attention maximizing algorithms that drive the social media products and now the AI products that make so much money for these companies. So if you are really going to stand up to authoritarianism, you need to be ready to stand up to these big tech companies.
But then again, he's not really standing up to them, is he, Joe? He's feigning concern, but only to the extent that it will not in any way, shape, or form hurt his ability to raise $1 billion to become president of the United States. And that's
who
what you have.
do you think he's going to raise that money from?
Silicon Valley, baby.
That's amazing. He's not going to bite the hand that feeds him. Don't be ridiculous.
Now, I think everyone in the chat, and Jen, you as well, would agree that this is a very level-based, reasonable critique, not fully where I would want him to go, but I would say for somebody who is a fairly noted, even at times, dare I say, A-list actor, you know, he definitely offered a fairly acceptable critique for somebody who's in Hollywood, I would say. Would that be a fair interpretation?
Well, I've always really liked him. And yeah, I agree with Victoria. He was very good in Don Juan. That was good. Don John. I remember that. It was good.
The movie that I heard is really good to see that he did was Looper with Bruce Willis. I still haven't seen that one, but he's Bruce
not
Willis.
My vibe.
Well, you and I definitely differ on, you know, style and circumstance as far as movies are concerned. However, what I will say is that the most troubling part about this, I wouldn't even necessarily say milquetoast type of criticism of the obvious frontrunner for president of the United States on the Democratic side in 2028. It's the commentary on his Instagram page. It's the response to him making this video from the people who support, I guess, like him. Bro, he's trying to defeat Republicans from gerrymandering themselves into permanent power in Washington. And he's the only prominent Democrat doing anything to stop it. And you're choosing to attack him, of all people, with all of this other authoritarianism going on? Come on, man. That's the first one. Aren't you a Trump supporter? This is a good one. Love you, respect you, acknowledge that this is an issue. So all those things, but you've got to read the room. We can worry about this down the road when it's way too late.
These are some very privileged followers that he has, you know, which makes sense. Also, probably older people.
No, this guy actually wouldn't. You would look at this particular guy with his hat on backwards and his beard.
If that's him.
Yeah, assuming that it's him. And he says, Newsom is the only thing fighting tyranny right now. Love your films and you have a lot of talent, but this is dumb timing.
Yeah, see, that could, now, as far as I'm concerned, it's all bots. I don't believe, that's the problem, is that I don't think that's real. I don't believe that people are who they say they are unless I've met them personally. I don't believe in Avatar or I can't believe anything. There's like an entire actress now that's completely an AI actress.
Yeah,
Like,
I saw. That's insanity.
crazy shit. So I have taken to where, unless I know the person is a real person, then I will assume AI until further notice.
Last one. Let's not turn against Newsom when he's the best we've got to fight MAGA. If that's the best you've got, you've already lost.
They've lost. The Democrats have nobody. They have nobody.
And to Joseph's credit, he actually responded and said, thanks, but honestly, I'm not convinced Newsom is the best option to fight MAGA. You're not convinced. Listen, first of all, it's not about fighting MAGA. It's about fighting the corporatocracy that has taken over this country. Now, if you think that the problem in this country is a bunch of goofy red hats that hate what this country's become, even though in many of their minds, their interpretation of what this country is and what it should be is a fool's errand, because they do not understand how a society is to function properly. We're living in an austerity nightmare. They revere people that should not be revered. And a lot of that is misguidance. A lot of that is growing up in communities that are based on religious indoctrination. A lot of it is also based on this notion that American exceptionalism is above any criticism, and that Donald Trump is playing 5D chess and is truly on your side, is really looking out for your best interests. But I think it's safe to say that we know that that's not what's happening here. What it is reinforcing, even with somebody like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, it's pretty simple. If you're a shit lib, you are what is going to drag this country straight to hell. You're complaining about gerrymandering. We do not have honest elections in this country. Right. I don't give a fuck how many districts get gerrymandered. Exactly. You're never going to be represented as we the people. You are represented by and for corporate special interests. That is how this has been for multiple generations now. But let's pretend that we can actually get something solved by having these supposedly fair districts. And you're going to go, and the thing that they're fighting about now, that this is all being done along racial lines, let me assure you of one thing that I learned very quickly when it came to running in or helping run a congressional race against Wasserman Schultz. Some of the worst corruption you will ever find in politics is in the impoverished Black communities. And you know who it comes from? The bougie Black gatekeepers in the Democratic Party.
Otherwise known as?
What's the term?
The Black misleadership class.
There it is.
That's what the revolutionaries in Atlanta, the Stop Cop City, that's the term they use to describe the blue people that are in charge of their city.
I'll throw her name out there because I don't give a fuck. Grace Carrington, she's one of the worst.
I can't believe you're calling out names. I still live here.
So Grace Carrington, who is somebody who has been a DCCCer, was a party chair of Broward County, along with another gentleman who I did like, and I still do. I think his intentions were much better. But it was obvious that this woman in particular, who had, let's just say she was the whisperer of the Black community, had a very, very cordial, and probably still does, relationship with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So when we hear these stories about why are these communities so downtrodden and can never seem to get out of their way, well, one of those reasons is because you have people that are careerists like Grace and have to protect their fiefdom, their infrastructure, because that's more important. So when people get so caught up in this gerrymandering, that it doesn't matter because you're not getting a living wage. You actually have people out there right now with everything that's going on, knowing full well that this country is heading straight for a cataclysmic collapse. We can't have single-payer healthcare in the United States. And then you get AOCIA going on CNN yesterday. And what does she want to talk about? How we have to give healthcare to everyone in this country, even if they were in this country. I know you don't like the word and I won't use it, but there is such a thing as playing politics, knowing exactly how to play it, understand how to sell your ideology to people. You and I talked about this the other day. If you're looking for two leaders in this country right now that are on the two sides politically, that are the most recognized people, if you put Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie on one side and Bernie Sanders and AOC on the other side, and you told people that they had to support these two factions right now, who do you think is coming out on top?
I know who I'd vote for.
Well, I'm saying for being objective.
Can I say something about the MAGA thing? I feel like we're like 3 subjects ahead now, but like when we were talking about the MAGA people, I just find them to be useful idiots. They're just useful idiots for an oligarch class, just like the guy, whoever those libtards are in their chat, right? Whoever those people are in their chat, those are the useful idiots for the Democrats. It's the same difference. These people are they're just being used by this oligarchic class to believe that this whole thing is real, that they get a vote and it matters. You'll get nothing and you'll like it. That's really what it is. And people who make comments like that are just so fucking privileged that it's like, it's like, imagine like a high tide is coming in, and everybody is sort of standing at a different position. Some people are already ankle deep in the water to begin with. And then some people are all the way up in the mountains, and as it's coming, so it's very easy for the people that are so far above the flood to look at problems that are just not that significant because they're not near the flood. You see?
No, they're not near the flood. And we have to also be very clear here. And this is why, look, Mamdani is going to win. He's going to be the next mayor. I think he still deserves a benefit of the doubt in terms of what he's going to do once he has the levers of power. Because again, he is the mayor. He is going to be in charge of a substantial budget.
And who did he just come out and say he was bringing on his staff? Oh, Zios.
I'll have Zionists in my administration.
That's a deal breaker. That's a deal breaker. And the truth, again, my opinion on him is irrelevant because I don't vote in New York's mayor's race, so it doesn't really matter what I think. And yes, he is still way better than Cuomo, but now, to me, he can't be trusted. You're going to surround yourself with Zios? You can't be trusted. Your judgment is already now very questionable.
Well, the other problem you're also dealing with is that he's giving you the right language, and we're going to show you here what we mean by that, because, of course, when he goes on Fox News, he's going to say exactly what the talking points that are appropriate in order to continue to corral the necessary network, and thinking that, well, you've got nowhere else to go, so I can get away with saying other things. So here's what he had to say on Fox News.
Margaret Thatcher said, socialism's great until you run out of everyone else's money, other people's money.
Well, what Andrew Cuomo said is that if he had $959 million, he'd give it to Elon Musk in tax credits, because that's exactly what he did. And I bring that up to you to say that it's often a question of whether you have the willingness to spend that money to benefit working class people. Andrew Cuomo is going to say a lot of things tomorrow night on the debate stage. And frankly, I wish it was more like NASCAR, so New Yorkers could see the billionaires that were sponsoring him right on his suit jacket.
See, I've been saying that for years. I feel like I've probably been saying that since before he was born at this point. That's always been the case.
I will also say regarding the socialism is good until you run out of other people's money. I will also say that capitalism is good until you run out of people to exploit. So trying to defend one ideology versus the other, this is always it's always that side that's bad, and this is what they're getting away with. But in reality, we're living in a system that can't sustain itself. So somebody like Zohran is naturally going to be given some type of a mandate to go in and make some type of a difference. But if he is going to capitulate in any way to the Zio state, even though he knows exactly how to nail Cuomo, which is great, there's no question. I think anyone being objective here would say that New York City is much better off with Zohran Mamdani than they are with Andrew Cuomo.
Of course.
But with that being said, that doesn't mean that he isn't going to make mistakes, that he isn't going to do things that is going to leave you scratching your head and saying, did we really make the best decision? No, this is all that you are offered because we live in a country where people are not willing to fight. You have to demand the systematic change. This is still way too early, and we're also going to address the fact that there is no ceasefire. When Zach Foster comes on, we're going to talk about.
See, you're jumping subjects. Like, this is what I was talking about.
I'm simply saying that do not allow the Zion Nazis to control the narrative under any circumstances. They have to be lanced off like a boil, as Jen likes to say.
Yes. Well, that's what's concerning. This is not one of those gray areas where we're going to like agree to disagree. And it's nice to work with people on both sides of the aisle. That's not this. That's just not, this is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. So yes, do I think he'd be better policy-wise, at least based on what he says, than Cuomo? Of course. But I will tell you what is the, and I've been saying this about him from the beginning, that to me is very red flaggy, is he is very Obama-ish to me. He reminds me of Obama. First of all, he is so politically smooth, like almost scarily politically smooth. And yeah, I mean, I think that you can't both sides Zionism. There's no two sides. That's just not a thing. So if you're inviting people, like, let's say hypothetically, because in my mind, what I hear now is, yeah, I've reached out to the Nazi party and I want to make sure we all get along. And I've decided to have a couple of their members on my cabinet. That's what I hear now. That's how absurd that sounds to me. So,
because this is a man who had 10 years. And I know now that it's politically convenient, he watches Fox News as well. So I'll just speak to him directly. Andrew, you had your chance to lead this state. You took that time to sell out working class New Yorkers to your billionaire donors. And instead of actually meeting the needs of people who couldn't afford to live in the city, you gave $959 million in tax breaks to Elon Musk. And now you want us to believe that we can't spend less money than that to make every bus fast and free in the same city.
All right.
He's a great politician.
Absolutely.
Which is the scary part.
Exactly. He's very smooth. But again, it's like your choices between that and not that, which is horrible because Cuomo is horrible. So it's like, that's the menu.
And we should be living in a country.
Who's the Republican? I don't know who the Republican is.
Well, it's Senator Silwa. He's running again, as always. But the fact of the matter is that if we lived in a country where the normie politician was somebody like Zohran, we would be in a much better place. Unfortunately, in spite of all his red flags, he's considered probably as good an option as there is if you're talking left politics. And that's a scary thing. Like, that's a reflection of just how bad things have gotten, where there is this need to still try to be a fence sitter and a middle of the road player. And that's just not going to work. Not with this, it's not.
That's the problem. Like, we could find gray areas in a lot of places with stuff. We could. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's definitely things where compromises have to be made. That's just the way it is. That's not one of them. It's a deal breaker.
Great. Now, if you want to know how you should fight, I'm going to show you a video of a person who is also in New York City. And no, this person is not running for mayor. This person is an immigrant and a U.S. citizen and is not taking any shit from the Gestapo that's been running around this country, rounding people up because it serves a political purpose and only a political purpose. Don't know the lady's name? I don't need to know her name. But when I say that this is the type of fighting that this country needs, if it's ever going to salvage itself and become the type of nation that we think it is, this is the type of fight and the type of person that should be leading the efforts.
I haven't seen this. And Travers, you are naughty.
Stupid bitch. That's why you're a bunch of fucking criminals. I wish you would. I wish the fuck you would. Yes, the fuck we his family. You're all a bunch of big pussies. Don't calm down. Who the fuck is you? We don't like none of you.
You okay?
No, how can I be okay? You okay? Are you okay?
Are you okay?
I look like I'm okay? Don't come up in my face here because I hit hard. Fuck wrong with y'all?
Try it.
I wish you would.
Try it.
You try me and see what the fuck happened. Nigga, we angry. All of us.
So as
I'm
you can
telling
see,
you, shit's going to start to get real if they're going after the Haitians, man. I am telling you, they are not going to have it.
Now, the reason I'm freezing this here, because again, this is the Immigration Detention Center in New York City, 26 Federal Plaza, adjacent to the FBI building, I'm pretty sure. Now, this guy that you see here, who is probably an ICE agent, he's wearing a Yankee hat, which should tell you all you need to know, some really official credentials that he's got flexing that he's got on right now. He's got his badge, but as you can see, he's not in the best of shape. He's also covering up his face. And what were you saying earlier regarding these guys?
These are like guys that sit around and play first-person shooting games, and we're just given $50,000 to go play like Weekend Warrior Commando with this. Like, these are not qualified people in any way, shape, or form. So it's just, we literally now have thugs just pulling people off the street. And I said it when they said they were going to go, when he revoked 500,000 visas from Haitian people. Oh, let him go. Let them go pull this shit down in Little Haiti here. See how that goes. You, no idea.
I got news for you, brother. She is an American. You may not like her accent. You might not even like her skin color, but she is an American citizen. So when you start
they are
talking,
not American.
So when you start talking like that, what you end up doing is giving credibility to guys like this. And I'll say this, even though I am much harder on immigration than Jen is, like significantly harder.
Yes, I don't think it should be a thing.
Well, I do, but there's a difference.
I know you do.
But there's a difference here. If the people that you want to attack are the individuals who you can say who did not come through the legal channels to get to this country, but you're not going to go the extra route, which is, why are they getting in here in the first place? You have multinational corporations that would basically do slavery if they could get away with it. This is the next best thing. To have people work for pennies on the dollar and suffice their bottom line, that is the end all be all for anybody who is concerned about this issue. You think rounding up individuals is going to solve this problem? You're still not dealing with the fact that this is the greatest concentration of wealth this world's ever seen. And these guys in the mask are protecting those people. They're not out there trying to get people like that black lady. They're out there protecting capital, the worst kind anyway.
And she's very right. They're complete pussies.
He wants to get mouthy.
Why is your face covered?
Well, because he's, people back home saw who it was.
Because quite honestly, whether it's fear of being recognized or fear of COVID, either way, you're a fucking pussy.
I mean, it's just like,
she's right. I mean, these guys are ridiculous.
And even if you are a hardliner on immigration, fine. But if you're not going to actually deal with it the way that it must be dealt with, if you actually give a shit about being America first, then you're just a hypocrite. Or you're a bigot, or you're both. So decide, because I'm willing to fight on the lines with you guys as long as you're willing to actually admit what the real issue is here. These guys are guardians at the gate. These are pawns on the chessboard to protect the king and queen. That's it. They're nothing.
Until they come for you. That's the thing. Until they get to you. But yeah, I think that these guys are cowards. These are people that would otherwise not qualify to even be what we call law enforcement, which isn't, but whatever. So yeah, these are cowards and losers at life, and clearly have no sense of morality whatsoever. I don't even care. You know what? I do care what people's stance is on immigration, because to me, it's just about being a fucking human, treating people kindly. I don't give a shit what you want to cite them or call them or whatever. Just what must we like treat people so shitty? It's just all a case of everybody kicking down to people with less power than you. I assure you, they are never the source of your problems in this world. But this woman, and I don't know. I mean, look, I don't know if she's Haitian. Maybe she's Jamaican. She's island. She's definitely an island accent person that we get here, that we know what that sounds like. And she's very possibly and probably an American.
Well, she's got more to say. So
I like her already. Yeah.
Angry out here, so don't think it's y'all alone. Get out of here. Who you telling get out of here? Why you telling me get out of here? You asked me a question and I'm answering you. Get out of here. Man. Fuck wrong with you? Oh, stupid ass bitch. That's why you gotta hide your face. You wanna go to jail? You told me my mother can tell you anything. You wanna go to jail? Fuck wrong with you? You wanna hit me? Hit me, bitch. You ain't got me. Nobody's scared of you. You're a pussy ass. Come. I got rings on, bitch. So me and you gonna fight, you pussy bitch. You're a pussy bitch. That's why your kids them don't like you and your wife is fucking on you. That's why you gotta hide your face. My face ain't hidden, bitch. I'm American, you stupid bitch. Fuck wrong with y'all? You can take me too high. I'm sure the Zodiac friends. You know what to do? Tell them, no. You want me? Fuck wrong with y'all? Fuck all of you.
Love her.
Put that on the news. Let Trump see it. I'm so fucking red, bitch.
Oh, that woman.
The fact that
Oh my God. Ugh, that is my spirit animal. Like, I cannot. That is, that's like Beth Dutton level shit to me, except real human. That was awesome.
And I 1000% agree with that. And you could tell that that's what set him off, because you could see that he started like stalking her at that point once she made that commentary. Like
honestly, she would have laid him out fucking flat. She would have probably had his throat slit in like 3 seconds. I'm telling you, these women are not having it.
And not only that, but it's like you are the biggest pussy bitch alive. You're stalking a fucking woman. Like, how much of an absolute pussy bitch can you be? And he did it several times. Want to get arrested? Huh? What the fuck? Want to get arrested? Oh, he's so tough, Jen. He's so tough.
Yeah, I'm telling you, let these people try this in certain areas. My understanding is that there are a couple of gangs in Chicago that actually put out bounties, like $10,000 bounties on ICE agents' heads. Yeah, so there's going to be certain areas where it's going to be very dicey because they're fucking with the wrong. They're really going to like fuck around and find out.
Well, they are doing that because, again, there is nothing orderly about the way that they're doing this. That's the thing. That's what you have to remember. If there was anything orderly about the way they were conducting business, then you might have some. Again, I'm not even saying anything that would be considered rationalized, because there's nothing rational about this behavior. But what you have to remember, more than anything else, they've basically decided to just go nuts and say, hey, you want a gun? You want a badge? You want to get out there and crack some heads?
Yes.
Free for all, baby. No one's going to stop you, which is fucked up.
Until people like that are, whether it's gang leaders putting bounties on heads, or it's communities that I see coming out in the streets and physically fighting back against ICE, it's only going to get worse. And again, let them try that in heavily armed states.
Well, that's what's going to end up happening. And you're going to have a black market, rightfully so, of weaponry that is going to be sold.
You don't need a black market. You just friggin' go. We live in Florida. You don't need a black market to be armed.
Well, in Florida, yes, but in other states, it might be a little tougher, like New York, for example. But I don't blame them. I mean, this is to be understood, where we say, yeah, you kind of need to be armed in this country. Like, it's necessary. And this is an example of people who are, again, as she said, I'm an American. You don't like my accent. You don't like my skin color. What the fuck ever. But you're not fucking with me. Like, you coming after me like a big tough guy. Again, just the guy that was standing in between them. Let's see him try to get tough with him. He would get fucking, he would get pimp slapped is what would happen. So these guys are not tough. They're just not. Because anyone who's tough would
they've been outrun. They were outrun by this like kid on a bike. Like, these guys are pitiful. They're really pitiful. And it's just, people have to be vigilant. I did see that there are neighborhoods in Chicago that are having like round the clock watch. They have somebody in the hood standing on every single corner protecting all of the Latino people in the neighborhood. So whether it's, one guy was protecting his gardener, but they have them all on watch and they all have like whistles and shit. And people see what happens because the antithesis, the only way to beat fascism is community. That's the only way. That's the only way that works. That's the antithesis. So the people that are starting to find that's where this is headed.
I agree. And if you guys are enjoying this conversation, which we hope you are, please consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change for as little as $5 a month. You could become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel. I was going to say that we would celebrate passing 75,000 subscribers.
I know.
Which is amazing within itself. But
yeah,
dare I say, we were a little slow to get to you guys live. We just passed 77,000 subscribers.
Crazy.
And it is a rocket ship of sorts that we're making sure that we don't fall off of. And of course, we have to give a shout out to our new YouTube members. Nana Honor, thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member. We really appreciate you being here. Lonely Lib 81, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Hey, listen, being a lib these days can be very lonely, especially if you hold true liberal values or libertarian values, or maybe both. But thank you so much for joining us. Really
love to Spain. Love to Spain. Yay, Spain.
Jim Talib with the $5. Thank you so much as always for the super sticker. Our trusty mod with the 5 Canadian A. German Mustache Man was the catalyst to bring about Israel over the thousands of years old Palestine, the Holy Land. Collaborators.
Correct. And where do you think the Mustache Man got his ideas? Like, where do you think some of his best ideas came from? What he admired and looked so up to, like would be American slavery and then Jim Crow laws. That's what he like eugenics and that kind of sick shit. He got that from us. Yeah.
Stephen Spates, use your freedom, USA. Thank you for the $1.99 super sticker. Appreciate you being here, my friend. And of course, for those of you that are here, if you are again so inclined, you can also go to patreon.com to contribute. And right now, I think it's fair to say that our country is heading in a very dangerous direction. But I also want to point out that there are some people that are doing a reasonable job in, recognizing some of these shortcomings that we do have. And one of those people that has done a pretty solid job of just that is John Oliver. And we should not have to be reducing ourselves to comedians having to interpret and use their massive platform to reach the type of people that we're trying to reach. But we bring this up.
Wait, comedians have always done that, though, right?
Well, yes, that's what they should be. But unfortunately, we've seen way too many that have capitulated to the establishment, at least as of late. Now, where this gets a little bit more interesting, as you will see, there is this desire, and we're going to get to Trump and the whole Knesset shit shortly. We'll do that probably with Zach. I do want to be very clear here, though, that the one thing that the Zion-Nazis are going to attempt to do is not only sweep all of this under the rug, but also try to rewrite history as quickly as possible. This is why Larry Ellison and his douchebag of a son are trying to buy up all of our media companies. Now, if we actually interpreted the law in this country, which we don't, then we would actually enforce the Sherman Act.
That's an antitrust act for people who weren't wondering.
So we have these monopolies that are popping up all over the place. And now you're seeing a complete monopolization of our media sphere. You thought that TikTok was the beginning? No, that's just or that it was the end. It's just the beginning. You get TikTok, you get CBS News. Now Ellison is trying to get Warner Brothers, HBO, and CNN. for $42 billion. And they won't stop if they get that. They'll keep going. And the whole point is to control the narrative.
Well, I mean, Zios have been rewriting history since they started. That was always part of it. Actually, people don't realize, but in I don't know if it was 47 or 48, when they formed this renaming committee, there was a renaming committee that was created when they created the state of Israel. And there was literally a committee that went around to different historic places, historic sites, Palestinian villages, so on, and renamed them into new names based on a language that they created, basically, that never existed as a spoken language. So they've made up an entire culture. They've made up an entire place, a fictional Disney utopia for themselves that doesn't exist except in their psychotic minds. Like, these are delusional people.
That's a great point. Here we go.
The Free Press recently posted about media coverage of young people starving in Gaza. It concerned photos that it said had helped convince a growing number of Americans that Israel has induced famine and is committing war crimes in Gaza. There is a lot wrong with this article. For one thing, it questions how starvation and famine have been measured by claiming the IPC, the international body that helps monitor food insecurity and malnutrition, has quietly changed its methodology in Gaza, essentially redefining the criteria for determining a famine. But that is false. Very basically, the IPC has multiple metrics for measuring malnutrition in children. One involves measuring height and weight. Another involves arm circumference. Now, because arm circumference only requires a tape measure, it's far easier to obtain, especially in a place like a war zone. So in Gaza, that is what they started using because of, all of this shit happening. And those methods were not, in fact, quietly introduced, as the Free Press suggested, but have been accepted since 2019 and previously used in famine classifications in South Sudan and Sudan. But it gets even grosser because the piece tries to provide extra context for some pictures of starving children. And here's one of its writers, the one who used to work for the Fuckhole Times, summing her work up.
So you've probably seen these photos of skeletal kids in Gaza on front pages, all over social media, even in a UNICEF ad.
All right.
That's the whole point of UNICEF ads. That's all they've ever shown is starving children.
Now, I'm poising this here for a reason. I'm going to put it on this young girl so you can see what real starvation looks like. And I'm also going to tell you who Olivia Reingold is. You want to know? So she is one of Bari Weiss's closest confidants, and she is also the person who just wrote the article about Zohran Mamdani welcoming Zionists into his administration. So that's who she is. And this is a person who has reinterpreted history in real time. If that's not an Ashkenazi, I've never seen one. Besides, you can tell that she's allergic to the sun, so naturally she must be from the Middle East.
MJ's right. MJ says donkey. We call it horsey face, but yeah, she's horsey face.
That's for you guys.
I'm just saying.
Fair enough.
Ad, they've become the symbols of famine. But we decided to look into these photos and the stories behind them. And what we found is that in case after case, these kids were sick, but not just with malnutrition. In every instance, they were suffering with other conditions or illnesses like cystic fibrosis, cerebral palsy, and even traumatic head injuries.
Now, their article claims all those kids were already facing grave situations because of their health, irrespective of any third-party action. But a few things. First, the traumatic head injury she mentioned was, as their article points out, caused by an Israeli shell explosion, which feels like a pretty significant third-party action. Second, it's not like the 12 photos they chose to look into are the only ones illustrating stories about famine in Gaza. And as for the notion that this is something that the mainstream media was ignoring, there is a key problem with that claim too. And see if you can spot it as she walks through their in-depth journalistic process.
We did something so simple, it's shocking that no other journalist bothered to do it. So this is how we figured this out. Let's just take this example of Najwa Hussein Hajj, who appeared in CNN simply as suffering from severe malnutrition in Gaza City. So all we did is we took her name, we went to Google Translate, we took the Arabic spelling of her name, put that into Google, and pulled up a lot of local clips in which her parents were talking about what was really going on. And what we learned is that she has an esophagus condition, which is something that was even reported in English media, including
I'm gonna vomit.
the New York Times. That
Are
is
you
quite
that is what they spent their time researching? That was your big fucking journalistic, venture? Oh my God. Like that's what you did a deep dive into. Starving child.
They probably had a very difficult time finding anything that they could use, so they came up with this convoluted story to suggest that there's a reason why she looks like a cancer patient.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm raging too, baby.
different and more nuanced story than the assumption that Israel wants her dead and they're starving her.
Okay, so if no other journalist bothered to do it, but it was even reported in the New York Times, that sure suggests the journalist very much did bother to do it. But also, if we're talking about context, when it comes to the child she mentioned there, they quote from an Arabic news outlet. Here is the whole section about her from that outlet. Here's the translation, and here's the quote the Free Press pulled, mentioning her ailments since birth, including vomiting while eating. But it's worth noting, the sentence before says her condition worsens each day without access to protein and vitamin-rich foods that are needed for her treatment, and the line after reads, during the Israeli war on the Gaza Strip, her condition deteriorated and she developed malnutrition because the right food for her was simply unavailable. And while I would love to keep splitting hairs on whether a country's starving kids is better or worse if those kids are already sick, let's just table that discussion for when I see you in hell. And
see, he does rage in a much more comical way and he, I am just.
Now, I would be the first person to say, and this is also our task. Remember, Jen and I have been talking about this for almost 2 years now. There is little, if anything, that we can do to save the Palestinians in Gaza or the West Bank. But you know what we can do? We can change things here in the States. How we organize, what we go after. As far as I'm concerned, Olivia Reingold, she needs to be in The Hague. This is a person who is complicit in war crimes. She works with Bari Weiss at the Free Press, and the reason why Larry Ellison, the biggest financial contributor to the IDF in the world, decided to pay her $150 million to buy out the Free Press and put her in charge of CBS News is because they looked at their content, saw somebody like Olivia doing war crime denial type journalism and thought, that's exactly who we need.
I hope these people are ready to really go down with the ship, because they're going. They're going. All these people are going to go when the Zio state folds. They're all going to go. Some of them will go like in The Hague. The rest of them are just going to disappear.
And I've often said that the people who need to suffer the most are princesses like her.
Oh, she's disgusting.
This is a person who has never worked a day in her life, has never felt struggle a day in her life. She is a privileged Ashkenazi who has never been told no, but eventually the wheels are going to turn in the other direction. But
I love that he's calling her out. Isn't he basically owned by one of those companies?
I believe that
HBO?
John Oliver's, I think he's HBO. Yes, I believe so. But you know what? I think Oliver's the type of person who's like, look, it doesn't matter. I'll find my way around it.
No, he does not sound like that. All right, let it finish, because he's great.
And that is not the only bit of cherry picking in that piece, which features a lot of young people with, yes, pre-existing conditions or ailments, but which were made significantly worse when they couldn't access food. And to be clear, as the president of Refugees International wrote, people with underlying conditions always suffer first when hunger sets in, adding that vulnerability is not a rebuttal of famine, it is a feature of how famine kills and who it hits first. And it is kind of weird that nobody at the Free Press thought to include that sort of important context, given that they are famously proud of their ability to Google shit. And you should also know That piece circulated far and wide among those seeking to downplay the suffering in Gaza, including Bibi Netanyahu himself, who shared that video on his social media with the caption, "Facts matter," which is terrible for multiple reasons, including if Netanyahu ever shared one of our stories, I think I'd burn this place to the fucking ground. And by the way, any story too. Even if it was the one where I ate the arse of a cake bear that looks like me. If you retweeted that with the comment, "Facts matter," you would never hear from us ever again. And look, everything I've shown...
That's funny. And I get it. You know, look, people, we're not making a commentary on John Oliver's politics in general, but he was definitely spot on with this. And the fact that somebody like Bari Weiss is in charge of like a media conglomerate is so hilarious and yet horrifying. But what I just, people need to stop using these sources. Like, I can't tell you the last time I wouldn't read that swill. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is, I need to bring up my slide. I have the perfect slide. I have the perfect slide for this, guys.
Do share. And
So we used to do story time a lot. So this would fall under the story of the Journal of Contemporary Yellow Journalism, a record of news fit to piss on. And that's how I think, like, it's a rag. Like, why not just go read the Inquirer? I mean, maybe people do. I don't know. But it's like, if people would stop utilizing those sources, then they would have no power. Do we need that sort? Like, what? I don't think I've watched CBS since I had to get up to change a channel on a television.
And I will say this, I am actually a subscriber to the Free Press, just so that I can get I could just get their newsletter through email to see the type of stories that they're putting out there. It's as bad as, it's even worse than what you think it is.
Oh, I wouldn't take that seriously. So, you know, and the truth is the majority of people that watch those programs or that watch network, they're dying off, right? Like, young people don't watch that. So their time is very limited. They're just going to keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller, very much like the Democratic Party, and cease to exist. That's what's going to happen.
I think these conversations are always important, and timing. We have pretty good synergy about when we bring in our guests, because we are showing you the one side of Judaism that is done wrong, and then you have the side of Judaism that is done right. Not just by Jen, but by friend of the show, Zach Foster. Welcome for the first time to Revolutionary Change.
So glad to be back. Thanks so much for having me.
It's so good to see you. Oh my God, look how green it is behind you. You are definitely for the plants, and they're real. I can tell they're real.
They are real.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for coming back. I mean, we were talking, like, there's no shortage of stuff to talk about, but I think one of the key things that has gotten that overlooked more often is what's going on in the West Bank. And I know that that is something that you have been following, that is, you know, what you are very knowledgeable about. And I know it's just been on speed over the past 2 years, but it's traditionally kind of not being focused on. And in fact, shit's going down there really badly right now for Palestinians. So I thought, like, we could start with, you know, not on Gaza, and like what has been going on, let's say, over the past 2 years in the West Bank.
In July 2023, so this is a few months before October 7th, the Israeli government transferred over the authority of the settler apparatus in the West Bank, the 800, 900,000 Israeli civilians living on occupied Palestinian territory. That whole apparatus was transferred over from the Israeli military to Bezalel Smotrich, Israeli finance minister. So for more than 2 years, every decision made about which settlement expansion is going to be authorized, which new apartheid road is going to be built, which new roadblock is going to be added, or not roadblocks, but basically civilian, anything related to the civilian presence in the occupied West Bank is now under a settler himself, who speaks openly about annexing the West Bank and expelling all Palestinians from it. That's who we're talking about here. And so over the past 2.5 years or so, Israel has dramatically expanded the settler enterprise. They have, in December 2024 and January 2025, they ethnically cleansed something like 40 to 45,000 Palestinians from the Jenin, Tulkarm, and Nuri Shams refugee camps for having committed the crime of being a Palestinian refugee. These people were living in the Palestinian refugee camps, and so they're a problem for Israel, which has long sought to erase the Palestinian refugee issue, right? That's why it's trying to delete UNRWA, the UN organization that provides schools and provides services and healthcare to Palestinian refugees in Gaza, the West Bank, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and elsewhere. Israel has been trying to eradicate the refugee issue altogether. That's why it's trying to expel 2 million Palestinians out of the Gaza Strip into Egypt. So that's a very frightening development. And I spoke with many of the Palestinians who have been uprooted from their homes in those refugee camps. And they're living in squalid conditions. They've lost their place of residence. They're having to rent apartments wherever they can. They can't afford to rent. So they live with family. They live with friends. They're sheltering in schools. You have schools in Jenin taken over by refugees. We're talking 400 Palestinian refugees living in a school in Jenin or in Tulkarm. I mean, the same thing that was happening in Gaza is happening in the West Bank. Then you have the ongoing settler violence. So every day, actually, I would say multiple times a day, you have settlers attacking Palestinians in Susia, Turmus Aya, Khan al-Ahmar, Khumsa in the north of the West Bank, in Sebastia. Basically, wherever there are Palestinians in the West Bank, there are Israeli settlers terrorizing them, not monthly or weekly, but daily. You saw a few weeks ago a Palestinian was murdered on camera in Susia, in the southern West Bank, in the South Hebron Hills. And what happened to the Palestinians who were eyewitnesses to the murder? They were all arrested for having committed the crime of witnessing a murder. And what happened to the murderer? He was let free within 24 hours. And you've seen him in videos since then, terrorizing, rampaging around the West Bank, cutting down Palestinian olive groves, destroying Palestinian water tanks, terrorizing Palestinians. So you have the ethnic cleansing operations, you have the settler terrorism, you have the expansion of the settlement enterprise, you have the ongoing annexation efforts that we talked about, the Bezalel Smotrich transfer. And then, just a few weeks ago, the Israeli government shut the Allenby border, turning the West Bank into an open-air prison similar to what it did to Gaza. You can't leave. You can't come in. It's just closed. It's just a gigantic prison. This is life for Palestinians in the West Bank.
Yeah. It's, you know, and I don't think that people realize that it's just been like this. It's been like this for 76 years. It's just gotten progressively worse. But now that you mention that, so that restructuring was happening in July.
That's right.
Right. So then just a few months later, how convenient for them to be able to have some sort of, you know, manufacturing consent opportunity to justify this phase, because this is now like the final solution in Gaza.
Well, I think it's also very important to point this out. And Zach, I'm sure that you've been paying attention to what we've also been talking about, which is the Zio takeover of our media, particularly by Larry Ellison, is to rewrite history as fast as possible. But as we know, with these genocidal psychopaths, they can only keep their mouth shut for so long. And so whether you are aware of this clip or not, Jen, I know you haven't seen this because this just came out today. So here is one of the three-headed horsemen of the Zio state, Smotrich, saying exactly what's going to go down in Gaza, despite this whole ceasefire that's already been broken, of course.
אבל קיבלי התיישבות לאורך זמן אין ביטחון. אז יש לנו סבלנות, אבל יש לנו נחישות ואמונה. ואנחנו בעזרת השם נמשיך את סדרת הניצחונות ואת הניסים הגדולים. והקדוש ברוך הוא עשה איתנו, וניצחון מלא גם כאן.
If that's your God, I don't want to know it.
We actually have a concept in Judaism called Chilul Hashem, which translates to desecration of God's name. And I can't think of a greater desecration of God's name than holding a Sefer Torah, holding the 5 books of Moses, the holiest book in the Jewish tradition, which, by the way, you're not even, if it ever touches the ground, you have to bury it.
Yeah.
You can never, that's how holy it is. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's holding that book while calling for settlement in Gaza on top of the ruins of the Palestinian people who have just faced 2 years of genocide. I mean, can you think of a greater desecration of God's name than that?
No, it makes me think of how, we talked before about Tucker Carlson doing the clip he did where he was basically speaking to fellow Christians and saying that supporting this is actually heresy. And that is what it is. This is heresy to any of the truth is any of the Judeo-Christian religions. This would be heresy because none of them call for that. But as an atheist, to me, it's all, it's all mishigas. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I see this as just another example of they're not going to be able to whitewash this as much as they think they can. There's too many eyes on all of them right now. And the fact is, there was no ceasefire. It was just a stoppage for maybe 24 hours, if you even want to call it that. Now they're saying at least 11 Palestinians have been murdered in Gaza. We know the number, again, is probably a lot higher. And one of the things that we've also noticed, Zach, as I'm sure you have as well, with rare exception, and friend of the show and fellow anti-Zionist Jew Steve Donziger pointed out on his feed today, the undercount in terms of how many people have been mass murdered is its own crime against humanity as far as I'm concerned. Still seeing people suggesting that 70,000 have died, maybe 100,000. No, it's at least 500,000, if not 750,000. And the fact that there is this drastic undercount, I think, is also an example of trying to whitewash the reality of how bad this is right now.
Well, the fact is that we've known since October 7th that the death toll is a dramatic undercount. It doesn't count people incinerated by the bombs. It doesn't count people buried under the rubble. It doesn't count people who have been buried in mass graves that Israel has tried to hide, such as the mass grave that was discovered of the emergency workers who were murdered while they were trying to rescue people. This was in the south of Gaza a few months ago. It doesn't include all the Palestinians who have been abducted and are lingering in Israeli torture prisons. We just got a report, was it yesterday, from the Gaza Health Ministry of some 90 bodies that were just dumped, that were returned to Israel. This was an exchange, right? So 50 in the ceasefire deal, you had for every one Palestinian for every one Israeli body that would be returned to Israel, 15 Palestinian bodies would be returned to Palestine. But where did these bodies come from? How are there just 90 bodies? Most of them in handcuffs.
Did you see? I saw one of them, like the explicit photo of it, and it's just they were blindfolded and handcuffed and leg shackled, and that's how they died and tortured.
And the death toll didn't include those people. And God knows how many more bodies are lingering in Israeli. There could be thousands of bodies lingering in Israeli refrigerators right now, above and beyond the bodies that had been there for decades. So the truth is, we have no idea what the true death toll is. So you're absolutely right about that. And I think it's incumbent upon all observers to assume the worst, because Israel won't let independent observers in. It won't let human rights commissions enter Gaza. It won't let independent journalists enter Gaza. It won't let anyone, you won't allow reconstructive equipment. You can't bring heavy equipment in, so you can't find the bodies. So of course we should assume the worst until proven otherwise. I completely agree with that assessment.
Yeah. I've been saying that I don't see any way out of this short of 2.2 million dead bodies, because at the end of the day, the famine that has set in for so many of them is irreversible in terms of the damage. And that would be even if you had medical treatment and those things were in place right now, which they're not. And given the condition of Gaza, it's not going to be for a really long time. So you're talking about a place that has no sanitation, no running water, like all of that. And they're still being completely oppressed. So there's no reason to think that all of a sudden their lives are going to turn around and the water is going to start flowing.
You have a concept called excess mortality or indirect deaths. These are deaths from disease, from people's wounds that are festering and lingering. They can't get the proper treatment and care. They may get a common cold, and because they're famished, because Israel is denying entry of food into Gaza, the common cold or the common flu becomes deadly. And if you hear the doctors, we have more than 150 doctors or so who have gone into Gaza. These are American doctors, Canadian doctors, etc. And they come back and they tell you, every time I enter Gaza, I see patients die from preventable deaths. They all say that. Someone, they just couldn't get the care they needed, and then they got an infection and they died. Or you don't have the proper equipment to treat them, so they died a preventable death. And how many people are dying from preventable deaths that are not dying in hospitals, that are just dying in their tents or in their shelters or in the open air? We have no idea.
I would like to know your thoughts as we have talked about the manipulation of the media sphere by Larry Ellison, but all the underlings that have come with it. I believe that Zionism deliberately pushes for anti-Jewish hatred in this country at a fever pitch now. And I'm watching guys in the manosphere, including one big content creator who, knock on wood, is supposed to come on the channel on Saturday night with me. And they really have gotten to a point now where they're just not hiding it anymore. They're just saying it's the Jews and that's it. And all the while I'm thinking, I'm not of the mind that these are all just outright anti-Jewish haters. I think that they have basically been pushed in this direction by the Zio state, by the Tishbys of the world, the Messings of the world, the Olivia Reingolds of the world, who are now doing everything they can to basically push Zohran in a direction that's going to derail his mayoral aspects when he takes over. And he is going to win the mayoral race in 3 weeks. And so this, to me, is, I think, a plan as far as they're concerned, because I think Zionism only survives if there is a fever pitch of anti-Jewish hatred in the United States. That's my opinion.
Just today, you had this Israeli football team, Maccabi Tel Aviv, and I guess some of the fans were barred from, I guess, going to watch the match or whatever. And the narrative that you hear now is, oh, it's anti-Semitism. Well, no, it's not anti-Semitism. You could call it anti-Israel if you want. But you have people that Jewish football fans are not allowed to come to the UK. What do you mean Jewish football? You have to be Jewish to be a supporter of an Israeli soccer league? They're intentionally conflating Jews and Israelis. You could say Israeli Jews, because I bet most of them are Israeli Jews rather than Israeli Palestinians. But just calling them Jews, what you're doing, what you're telling the world is that Jew equals Israeli. You know how many times in my life people ask me if I'm Israeli? I've never once in any public statement, any public article I've ever published, any public utterance ever claimed I'm Israeli. Once in never in my entire life. Why do people think I'm Israeli? Because Israelis want you to conflate Israeli and Jewish. So does Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL, who constantly says the Jewish people and the Jewish state in tandem. You'll always hear him repeat this. There's so much hatred against Israel and the Jewish people and the Jewish state. He just bundles them together as if they're the same thing. Well, let me ask you this. If the Jewish people and the Jewish state are the same thing, does that mean me as a Jew in the United States, I bear personal responsibility that I should be held accountable for Israel's actions? That's deeply anti-Semitic. And it's Israel supporters that are doing that. The chief rabbi of the United Kingdom once said, Zionism leaps off every page of the Siddur. Wait, what? So then I should go to a Siddur and write Free Palestine on it. That's what you're telling me, that I should take a Jewish object, a prayer book that was invented 1,500 years ago, that was invented a millennium before Zionism existed. You're telling me that I should go and put Free Palestine on there because that is a Zionist doctrine, the Jewish prayer book? And then when you go to a synagogue and you see the Israeli flag inside the synagogue, and then you go to services on Saturday morning and they sing a prayer for the state of Israel on Saturday morning, and then they sing a prayer wishing safety on the soldiers, on the IDF, as they're committing a genocide, I should go and protest in front of the synagogue. Then I'll be accused of being an anti-Semite, but they're singing a prayer wishing safety on an army carrying out a genocide. So it's not a synagogue, it's a political institution that has a political platform
that I want to protest. And so I'm not anti-Semitic. They're instigating and inciting anti-Semitism. It's a big difference.
Now,
Yeah, it's funny you should mention protesting at a synagogue. We had a run-in with the Central Synagogue in New York a few weeks ago, sent the police to my house and the sheriff to Peter's house. Yeah, because
Wow.
we just
What happened?
You're in New York, right?
I'm not in New York.
Okay, so this is a very popular Zio synagogue near the Upper East Side. It's technically Midtown, but the point is, I came across amateur video that somebody decided to take inside this synagogue on Rosh Hashanah, and you have liberal Zios. They're so much worse than neo Zios, than conservative Zios, because with the conservative side, they just tell you what they're thinking. They don't nuance it. There's nothing to it. It's we want to kill it, like Smotrich and Gavir. Like, you know exactly what they're thinking. They're not hiding anything. But with the liberal Zios, they tried to make it all fluffy and warm. And
we called them out.
Yeah, so basically they were saying that Americans are going to have to die for Israel's survival. Is essentially what she said.
She said that we shouldn't have, what was it? Like, she said we have not given up the ritual of human sacrifice, or we should not.
She referenced Abraham sacrificing his son, all that shit.
Yeah, and that's still like that. We should still have that. Like, that was basically the sermon that she was giving.
So the clip ended up going viral. It got seen over 250,000 times. It might be at like 300,000 views now. And it got to them. They saw it. And so they decided to call the cops. I was like, you're going to be fucking kidding me. And
because of the hit list, right?
Yeah. So, well. Yeah,
okay, so this is the hit list, just so you can see what the hit list is. So we put them on what is known as my hit list, right? Why can't I find it? Where is my hit list? Oh, here it is. Okay, so it's a bong hit, right? That's the hit list, right? It's things that are so infuriating, they require a bong hit. It's a hit list. And so that's why the police came to visit us.
Yeah, but you're not telling the full story. So you shut the door in the cop's face.
Yes, because that's always the proper thing to do.
Whereas with me, while they were very nice coming to her in a suburban enclave, I live in the Florida Panhandle and I live in an apartment. So it was 11:30 at night, not 8 o'clock at night, and they decided to.
Oh wow!
Oh, okay, guys, I didn't do shit. And as soon as I opened the door, like, do you know why we're here? And I'm like, I have no clue. And then he gets into the story and this, that, and the other thing, and we're talking. And then by the end of the conversation, he just was like, you know what, the hell with it. I'm going to tell you who called the cops on you. And he said, there's so-and-so up in New York. I'm like, are you? Oh, really? Oh, that's who called the cops. Okay. So sure enough.
We've been saying people should go protest outside of that synagogue.
Yes.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, when I was an undergraduate student at the University of Michigan some number of years ago, but nothing has changed. And nothing has changed, by the way, on any college campus, pretty much anywhere in the US or pretty much anywhere in the world. It's exactly the same, more or less everywhere. The Jewish institution on campus is called Hillel International, B'nai B'rith, okay?
Sure.
Now, it's a misnomer to even call it a Jewish institution, because it's not Judaism that unites the groups that are allowed to associate with the Hillel and are allowed to get funding from the Hillel and support from the Hillel. No, it's not Judaism that unites them, because there are a lot of Jews who are anti-Zionist who cannot affiliate with Hillel, because Hillel is an explicitly Zionist organization. So there's nothing fundamentally about Hillel that's Jewish, right? It's not a Jewish organization. It's a Zionist organization branding itself as a Jewish organization.
Yep.
Because Zionism is the only thread that ties all the groups. It's not Jewish, it's Zionism.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? It means the most prominent, quote unquote, Jewish institution on campus is branding Judaism as Zionism.
Yeah.
It gets worse than that. You have, over the past 2 years, so many incidents in which Jews are, I don't know whether to call them Jews or Zionists, but basically they're going about trying to manufacture incidents of anti-Semitism. You recall an incident at Yale where a Jewish student, it was dark, it was at night, and they're marching, and there's a Palestinian, a person holding a Palestinian flag, waving it, and this Jewish person basically, if you watch the video, it's remarkable. She literally like leans into him and then claims she was stabbed and that it was an anti-Semitic stabbing. And then she's doing interviews within a few hours. Obviously, she wasn't stabbed in the eye, although that was her claim. Not only was that her claim was that it was an anti-Semitic stabbing. And I wrote a piece on this. There's dozens of these incidents. They happen all the time where Jews are literally trying to instigate anti-Semitic incidents, apparently because there aren't enough actual anti-Semitic incidents. I mean, it's just disgusting. It's disgusting.
Well, I thought it was also interesting, if you remember, when this all started, and I have always felt that, you know, the Bill Ackmans of the world, I mean, those liberal Zion Nazis, if you will, are the worst of the worst because they knew what was happening, that the students were rebelling immediately after what was going on. And I still remember distinctly when they were marching on Columbia's campus and the girl who said, oh, he hit me in the face with the flag. He hit me. And of course, that person turned out to be one of the 7,000 opposed Zio content creators. So it wasn't just some random person on campus either. It was a person who actually is being paid. And the other thing that I probably didn't mention when you were here last time is I went to RFK's what you would call launch event in Philadelphia when he ran in 2024. And so this was just like a week or two after October 7th. And so I got a press credential and I'm in the pit right in the front. And there's a whole bunch of known people that were there, but the most noted person who was there was a person I didn't know who they were at the time. And that was Emily Austin. And she and I ended up talking for like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, whatever the hell it was. And when it was over, I was still thinking to myself, well, who is this person? Like, I guess I was kind of curious. And then little by little, I started looking into her and I realized that, okay, she's clearly connected to Israel in whatever capacity it is that she's in. I'm not 100% sure, but I told Jen this a couple of days ago. I'm like, I finally figured out who the fuck she is. She was RFK's AIPAC handler. That's who she was. When I say that we must support Israel because they're our aircraft carrier in the Middle East, it's because I've got Emily Austin over my shoulder making sure that I don't get out of line, because if I do, I might end up like my father and my uncle, and I don't want to end up that way. And that's what I thought.
There is some good news, I think, which is that the force that is the lobby, the Israel lobby, is waning. And you just saw a tweet today, I forget by which U.S. congressman or senator, but he said, I'm returning all my money to AIPAC. I'm done with AIPAC. Wow. I mean,
good.
Wow. I've never seen a tweet like that in my entire life. I mean, there's Rochana saying like, I'm not going to accept AIPAC money, right? There's obviously Ilhan Omar, and there's plenty of people saying I'm not going to accept AIPAC money, but to say fuck it, I made a mistake, I'm returning it all. I mean, that's a kind of a sea change, and that's sort of accepting I made a mistake, owning up to the fact that taking accountability for the mistakes I made in the past. Yeah. Wow.
That was surprising.
That's Senator Markey, and that's not surprising that Markey would do that.
No, it was a congressperson I hadn't heard of. It was a representative. I don't know about Markey.
Seth Moulton. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
this guy.
Well, Moulton's he's in Massachusetts as well. Okay. So that's not entirely surprising. But Moulton's again, he's a corporate dem. But in this case, these guys are very concerned. Say what you want, but these are careerists.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are very concerned about the future of their career. And a guy like Seth Moulton, who's just watching where the tea leaves are going, is going to be very concerned about what's happening. Now, I will tell you, there is a person who doesn't give a flying fuck about where the tea leaves are going. And he is a very proud Democrat who decided to go out and get his second beard of his career because he's clearly going to run for president again. And of course, we're talking about Cory Booker.
One more question. Barry says, Barry has spoken. This is a lot of pressure. The last question. You spoke a lot about hope, and obviously you are someone who is very pro-Israel. We also heard beautiful remarks about some of the students on traditionally black colleges, leadership, and what they've done. But could you give us your own evaluation of the African-American leadership in the United States, and what is their feeling about Israel? And
I just want to point out that if you really want to know who the most dangerous bigots in society are, it's not the truck driver with the Confederate flag in the Deep South. It's these people sitting in this room. These are the people with money and power and have the ability to actually influence how this country is run.
I just want to say, I don't know what would give anyone the idea that Cory Booker represents the Black community in any way, shape, or form to ask him what Black leaders think of this. You mean the Black misleadership class? I'm sorry, Zach, what were you going to say?
Well, AIPAC goes after Black American leaders. They recruit the presidents of all the HBCs, give them on the historically Black colleges, give them free trips to Israel, try to indoctrinate them from an early age. By the way, the House Democratic leader, his Hakeem Jeffries, how did he come about? Guess
Nancy Pelosi picked him.
Well, he defeated Charles Barron in 2012, a Democratic race for Congress, and in true fashion, it was AIPAC that funded his campaign, brought him out of obscurity into relevance, and look where he is now. He's leading the Democratic Party. And then you have Cory Booker, same exact story. Young Black leader, smart guy, really sharp. They know he's going to be an important political player in the United States. They recruit him, they fund him, and he has an AIPAC handler that texts him every day. I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, this is the story of the U.S. Congress. We're going to fund people who don't really care about Israel. They care about healthcare. They care about infrastructure. They care about abortion. Whatever they care about, it's not Israel. These are U.S. Americans born and raised in the United States that don't really care about Israel. So they're willing. And by the way, most Americans, it historically has not been an important issue for most Americans either. So it's like they don't perceive it to be a major compromise. They don't think they have to give up that much to get a whole lot. Well, now that's obviously changing, but historically that has been the tendency, and so it's AIPAC is sort of a two-pronged approach. Is on the one hand, we're going to nurture these young leaders, and then get them elected and nurture them all the way up to the top. And that's, by the way, the head of the CIA right now. He is basically kind of an Israel asset. The same is true of I believe Donald Trump's chief of staff. What is her name? Now it's escaping me. She also was a staffer on Netanyahu's campaign just a few years ago in 2020. And then, so it's getting people into power who are pro-Israel. And then on the other hand, it's getting people out of power who are pro-Israel, just not pro-Israel enough. Okay?
Right.
Oh,
Including,
and you can never be pro-Israel enough. No such thing.
Andy Levin, Jewish American from Michigan. Okay, the guy's like middle of the road pro-Israel, but he started to question. I can't even remember exactly what he did.
It was he was not standing up enough against BDS.
Right, he wasn't all in. Like he had some reservations. What happened? AIPAC poured $4 million in 2022 to get him defeated. He got defeated. Then came, obviously, we all know about Cori Bush, we all know about
Jamal Bowman.
Jamal Bowman. We know about Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush. AIPAC spent $20 million getting them elected. AIPAC offered $20 million to Hill Harper and Nasser Beydoun, Michigan-based Democrats, to try to unseat Rashida Tlaib. They rejected the blood money. But this is AIPAC's strategy. It's fund people who are willing to compromise on their principles in order to support Israel and send Israel $8 billion, $20 billion every year in arms. And then on the other hand, it's unseat people who call for a ceasefire, who call for a return of the Israeli hostages, who actually are doing exactly what the Israeli public wants. They're just not doing what Benjamin Netanyahu wants or the Israeli political leadership.
Well, let's hear what
I'm curious how he answers for the Black
senator from my home state has to say.
Because oftentimes I think locally, outside of New York, we find that there is becoming greater identification, not with the history of Israel and what Israel's become, but with the sufferings of the Palestinians without any, really understanding of the history with Israel. So, can you comment on African American leadership?
Well, look, blacks are always going to be, as Jews are, I think, always going to be
some of the first to sign up to address the suffering of others. And we shouldn't be afraid of that within the Black community, within the Jewish community, within whatever community. But when it comes to justice for Israel and understanding any suffering within context, we need to be more vigilant than we're being right now. And so within the Black community, and I say this all the time, and you asked specifically about Black leadership. First of all, this excites me like never before, because Obama is a raindrop compared to the storm that's coming of young Black leaders around this country who are phenomenally qualified, phenomenally experienced. You're going to see more Black governors, you're going to see more Black senators, you're going to see critical that you continue to find, not them when they're Congress people, you find those Black leaders when they're 22-year-olds at Oxford, when they're 24-year-olds as a city council president, and you go to them then and say, come to Israel, let us start showing you what this is about. That's what a key mission of AIPAC that must continue, which is finding future leaders, young leaders in America. I'm at the
younger the better. The younger we get, as somebody who was in Israel for a high school program, I could tell you I was 16 years old. The younger the better. You want to get in there and start the brainwashing process as soon as possible, Corey. You really want to take them while they're in college. If you wait till they're after college, you're closer to full brain development.
But by the way, I went on multiple trips. I went, this is when I was still a Zionist before I had my awakening. I went on a Hasbara Fellowships trip. I went on a jam trip. I went on multiple, not one, like 2 or 3. I can't even remember how many. And they pay you, not only is the trip free, but then they give you money as well. It's like a small stipend. Okay. 2, listen to pro-Israel pundits, be taught all the propaganda that we all know and love and hate. And that's the nature of the Israel lobby. It's get them while they're young, get them while they're still college students.
Yeah.
Because that's when they're most impressionable. I mean, we all know it's very hard to change your attitude on or opinion on something at later on in life. It's when they're young. I mean, it's a very strategic approach, and look how successful it's been at turning the U.S. Congress into a Congress that applauds 58 times for a person carrying out a genocide, according to the Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, multiple UN bodies, B'Tselem, Al-Haq, Al-Damir, and every other Palestinian and Israeli NGO, and every other respectable NGO that has anything interesting to say at all. And that's who they're giving a standing ovation to. I mean, it's disgusting.
Spiffity Keen, I call it clan camp now. What I did was I was there for a program called High School in Israel through Alexander Muss, which is JNF. It's JNF shit. And we stayed in dorms, and we got to go see all the real history stuff that they stole and all of that. And it's complete brainwashing. It's complete brainwashing, without a doubt.
And now I wonder if you really have to be telling people. And again, that was an older clip of Cory Booker. But he's always been this way because he's a careerist like a lot of others. And the only reason he survived is because he is a very nice guy. From anyone who's ever been in contact with him, he's not a jerk. He does not have that reputation. His staff likes him. Okay. But that doesn't change the fact that liberal Zios are always the most dangerous because it's about your feelings. It's about making you feel good. Yeah, we got to kill a lot of people, but you'll feel good inside when you hear the reason that we're doing it. And saying that we have to indoctrinate them from a young age, I mean, how do you not define it as anything other than a death cult? Because that's what it sounds like to me.
Cory Booker, what a disappointment. I mean, what was that speech he gave for 24 hours? How long did he last? 25 hours?
Filibuster, right. But yet he can't seem to muster to get a budget passed, right? Like they can't seem to do that.
You spoke for 20 some hours, breaking the record for the longest filibuster in U.S. history, but couldn't mention the moral issue of our time. Couldn't mention the Holocaust of the 21st century. Just didn't come up. I mean, what a disappointment.
Well, he's a whore. He's a corporate whore. And, these people are just for sale. And I don't care how nice they are. Actually, I find that even worse. I like people to act as evil as they act. You know what I mean? If you're going to put evil shit out there in the world and sign off on killing children, you don't get to pretend to be a nice person. Like, I don't buy that. That's just phony bullshit. That's why it's like that. That's to me why Democrats are worse.
Look, there's something to be said for the danger associated with a wolf in sheep's clothing, which is exactly what the liberal Zionists are, right? They tell you, oh, we support Israel as a Jewish and a democratic state. So they which is compelling and convincing to a lot of people. And yet Israel has been militarily occupying 5 million Palestinians for decades. So you don't get to call yourself a democracy if half of the people that live under your control, or a third of the people that live under your control, have no political rights, can be abducted in the middle of the night and put in prison forever.
Sort of like here now.
Sort of like here.
Because, and I've been saying this for a few years, you do not get to be the most violent empire on the face of the earth and not think that shit's going to happen at home.
Well, it presents a very interesting conundrum because, as we know, the buck always stops with Israel, even with the president of the United States, who the liberal Zio class wants to roll out the red carpet for, but they also want to insult him at the same time. And that is the new cover of Time magazine. With,
I've learned phrases I never knew were phrases from this. Let me tell you, they're not good.
Don't get me started on Time magazine.
Well, Trump has something in between his chin. I'm not sure what that is, but
they're calling it neck pussy now, or whatever the neck equivalent of camel toe is. It's neck toe. Although Peter didn't know what camel toe was until I
know what camel toe is. What are you talking?
You did not know what it was.
I know what it was. Yes, I did. I'm going to start.
Rachel.
However, I am now looking at it and I can see it. I didn't see it before, but now I can see it. And while on the one hand, they are clearly wanting to insult his physical appearance, they are in love with his politics, because if you remember, Zach, at the very beginning of his presidency, he decided to do something that only got stopped because of Tucker Carlson, of all people. They wanted him to go to war in Syria. They wanted him to bomb Damascus, which he decided to do for a moment. And then you had all of them, Fareed Zakaria, Van Jones. It was all over the place where they're like, this is the night Trump became the president. And then Tucker Carlson, to his credit, says, you do not want to start a war with Syria. If we take out Assad, it's going to result in ISIS most likely taking over. And then he came to his senses, decided not to do it, and then everybody reverted back to he's a Russian agent, he's not really the president, and yet here he did exactly what they wanted him to do, and now they're going to fawn over him by suggesting that he freed the Palestinians. Isn't that what he did, Jen? Isn't that what he did, Zach?
Well, as we already pointed out earlier in the stream, you said at a figure that's different than the figure I saw, but Israel has already killed 15 Palestinians in the Gaza Strip since October 10th, when the ceasefire went into effect.
No, that is totally fake news. I totally stopped everything. Believe me, I stopped everything.
Yeah, with the neck.
And it injured dozens. So Israel has already killed or injured multiples.
Yeah.
Of the number of Israeli hostages and prisoners of war released on October 10th. I mean, it's remarkable. Not to mention, they also reneged on the part of the agreement in which they were supposed to open up the Rafah crossing, which is extremely important because that's Gaza's only border with the outside world. So Israel basically said, the thing we promised to give you, a connection to the outside world, we're actually not going to give you. We're also going to cut the number of aid trucks in half from 600 to 300. So, you're just going to eat half a meal instead of a whole meal every day. If you're lucky enough to even get those, because according to the UN, they can't even deliver the aid because there's no roads left. How do you drive amidst rubble? You can't even deliver the aid. So, and then we have also reports that none of the hospital equipment is coming in. So the right stuff isn't even getting in. Not enough is getting in. The border remains closed at Rafah. They're continuing to slaughter people. It's important to focus on the details here because it's not just like one type of killing. We've seen reports of tank shells. We've seen reports of quadcopter drones. We've seen reports of Israeli troops just firing on Palestinians. So what we're now moving into is sort of a genocide, a slow motion genocide. Mm-hmm. Of instead of 100 Palestinians killed every day, okay, it'll just be 5. And instead of 300 wounded every day, okay, it's just going to be 20 or 30 now.
Okay, instead of 15 Palestinians starving to death a day, it'll just be maybe 1 or 2 now. It's just a slower version of the same thing we've been witnessing for 2 years.
And this is why, and obviously, this whole agreement that was come to by us and the our Arab bitch nations that just do what we want them to do and sell out their own people, they're the ones who came with this brilliant agreement. And Hamas was basically bullied into signing it, but now they're wanting to take away all their weapons. There's there is no way that they're going to do that. They're not going to do that.
This was a one-phase deal. I don't even really think it's fair to call it a ceasefire deal, because it wasn't primarily about ceasing fire. As we just said, Israel hasn't ceased fire. It was about hostage and prisoner of war exchanges. That's what this deal was about.
But they rearrest them, right?
And I saw one report they've already we know multiple Palestinians were released in this exchange who had been were already captured by Israel, I believe, that were already in prison prior to this swap. That is to say, sorry, let me start over. In January 2025, when Israel and Hamas signed that deal, there were a number of Palestinians that were released, right? There were, I forget the exact number of Palestinian prisoners released in that swap, but there were a bunch, right? And some of those Palestinians that were released in January were rearrested and then were re-released just a few days ago.
So they've released them twice as part of two. The same person got released for 2 prisoner deals. That's about right.
And the whole absurdity of the whole thing, if you recall, during that period, the first ceasefire deal was 42 days or so, and there was an exchange of captives like once a week or whatever it was for like a few weeks. So during that entire period of time, when Israel was releasing, when the Palestinians were releasing Israeli captives, and at the same time that Israel was releasing Palestinian captives, Israel just went about and arrested more Palestinians during those same 42 days than it released. So by the end of the 42 days, Israel actually had more Palestinian prisoners than at the beginning, despite having released all those Palestinians. So it's a joke. The whole concept of a hostage exchange is a joke, because Israel can just go into Gaza tomorrow and rearrest all the people that were released.
Exactly.
And it's not that it can, it will, and it does.
Yeah. And it's interesting because most people don't realize, because they haven't been paying attention to this really other than the past couple of years. The majority of the Palestinian hostages are completely unrelated to what's been going on in Gaza. The majority of the Palestinian hostages have been taken from the West Bank. And there have been people that have been released that have been there 20-something plus years, even longer. And these are people that are political prisoners. Make no mistake. These are even the ones who have been supposedly convicted of crimes are political prisoners. And it's just so obvious that that's how this works.
Yeah, like for all these security prisoners, the lifers, a lot of them killed Israeli soldiers who were occupying their homes and brutalizing their children and stealing their property and murdering them. So those are so in many cases, where even the lifers, like the bad guys, like even those guys, they're all political prisoners because they were all arrested in the context of an illegal, belligerent military occupation. Israel has no right to arrest any of those people. It shouldn't even be there. And then you had 1,700 Palestinians, 1,700, 58 times the number of Israeli captives who Israel didn't even claim had committed any offense. And by the way, these are 1,700 prisoners that are different from the 3,300 administrative detainees who are also a form of hostages. And those are people who are just grabbed off the streets of Ramallah and Nablus and put in a torture dungeon without having been charged with a crime. And their detention is renewable indefinitely. That's the 3,300. Then you have the 1,700. They weren't even administrative detainees. They literally were just hostages.
Yes.
Like, that's the only word to even use to describe them.
Navy EOD vet, are the 400 children in Israeli prisons political prisoners? You said it in the very first part of that. They're children. They're children. That's it.
Yeah. Now, while our corporate media is going to continue to fawn over Trump because we are an Israel first country at the top, the American people are not, but we know what we're facing right now. Jen, you've often said Trump is the most honest liar
Ever.
he's ever seen.
Ever.
So-
And let me tell you, it's like, I don't understand how more people don't appreciate that. I've never seen a more honest liar.
Totally going in for the oil. That's the reason. Well, if you want to at least admit a few war crimes and crimes against humanity while you're at it, that's what he decided to do at the Knesset the other day.
Promises
make it a lot
from many
easier.
other American presidents, you know that. They kept promising. I never understood it until I got there. There was a lot of pressure put on these presidents. It was put on me too, but I didn't yield to the pressure. But every president for decades said, we're going to do it. The difference is I kept my promise and officially recognized the capital of Israel and moved the American embassy to Jerusalem.
Now, how many people had to die as a result of you trying to start a holy war in the Middle East?
If I may,
Please.
on the same day that Donald Trump and company, I believe Ivanka Trump was there, Jared Kushner was there, obviously Miriam and Sheldon Adelson were both there at the inauguration.
Ivanka did go and kiss the wall. She did do that.
At the inauguration ceremony of that U.S. embassy in Jerusalem. Was it 2018 or 2019? 2018, right? Of course it was 2018, because on that very same day, you had the Israeli military lined up at the fence of Gaza. You had what was known at the time called the Great March of Return.
Yes.
Which started in March 2018 and was carrying on for weeks and weeks. Every week, tens of thousands of Palestinians would protest, demanding the right of return, calling for an end to the siege and the blockade. And then March and April, and what happened in May? On May 14th, 2018, on the exact same day that Donald Trump moved the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, illegally recognizing Israel's annexation of that city, Israeli snipers stood at the gates of Gaza and sniped 61 Palestinians in a single day. It was the most murderous day, one of the most murderous days for Palestinians to date in Israeli history. And if you go and read that report, many reports have been written about the Great March of Return. And the Israeli snipers were playing games. They were targeting kneecaps. Oh, today we're going to target kneecaps. Tomorrow we're going to target heads. Oh, they targeted medics. They targeted journalists. They targeted children. And what were these people doing? They were nonviolently protesting their own ethnic cleansing. And they were slaughtered for it. And at the same time that Trump is illegally annexing Jerusalem or recognizing the illegal annexation of Jerusalem. That's who Donald Trump is.
SMY, he's not in a synagogue. He's in the Knesset, which is their legislature. He's speaking in the Knesset and addressing these subjects.
Excuse me, I've got a lot more to say, so you're going to want to stay tuned.
Isn't that right, Miriam? Look at Miriam. She's back there. Stand up, Miriam. Stand up.
It's going to get good. This is where he admits some good stuff.
Miriam and Sheldon would come into the office. They'd call me. He'd call me. I think they had more trips to the White House than anybody else I can think of. Look at her sitting there so innocently. She's got 60 billion in the bank. 60 billion. And she loves, I think she's saying no more. And she loves Israel, but she loves it. And they would come in, and her husband was a very aggressive man, but I loved him. He was a very aggressive, very supportive of me. And he'd call up, can I come over and see you? I say, Sheldon, I'm the president of the United States. It doesn't work that way. He'd come in, but they were very responsible for so much, including getting me thinking about Golan Heights, which is probably one of the greatest things to ever happen to Israel.
It's glorious. Your president just basically admitted that he's a traitor.
So for the two anti-Zionist Jews here, could you please explain to the audience, again, this was complete bribery if there ever was, but what was the whole, I guess, what you would call story arc of the Golan Heights? What was the whole purpose of this?
Well, that's just territory that they've been trying to take, like the West Bank. The Golan Heights was Syria. That's where they stole from Syria. It's just stolen territory. I mean, Zach, I'm sure you know more about the details.
Yeah, in 1967, the Israeli government occupied the Golan Heights from Syria after that war that Israel started. And the Golan Heights is considered to be a strategic location because it's mountainous, you have high hilltops, so Israel wanted to control that forever. So in the early 80s, it annexed the territory. Of course, it's not recognized by anyone, I mean, except for the US, because you can't conquer land through war.
Apparently you can.
It doesn't work that way anymore. It used to work that way in like the 15th century, but it's the 21st century, doesn't work that way anymore. But Donald Trump says it still works that way.
Yep.
Now, Miriam and Sheldon Adelson are an interesting couple. Sheldon Adelson used to have a joke. He would repeat it all the time. He doesn't have that many interviews, but if you browse the interviews, he always repeats the same joke. He would say, it's the same style that Trump does. A friend of mine always says, "You're the tallest guy in the world." By the way, Sheldon Adelson is very short. So this is sort of part of the setup. A friend of mine always says, "You're the tallest guy in the world." I say, "How do you figure that?" He says, when you're standing on your wallet. Like literally, this is Sheldon Adelson's like best punchline that he repeats every time he's in an interview with anybody. He's like, "A friend of mine always used to ask me, you're the tallest guy in the world." I mean, Sheldon Adelson he died a few years ago, but and so Miriam has carried the torch forward. They began to donate to Republicans, I believe, in 2012. Perhaps it was even earlier than that, but basically in every election season from 2012 to the present, so every 2 years, because you also have midterms. So basically from 2012 to the present, they donate on average 100 million per campaign cycle. So just they've donated almost $1 billion to Republican candidates over the past decade.
Right.
I mean, they're like by far the largest donor to the Republican Party.
She bought the Golan Heights. She bought the Golan Heights. They bought the West Bank. That's basically what they did. And your president just acknowledged that he's a traitor.
Oh, yeah. Right in front of that flag.
And by the way, we knew this already at the time. Like he's saying it now in a very direct way.
Yeah.
But if you go back to 2018, when the United States government moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and when the U.S. Annexed Golan, all the reporting was very, very clear that basically this was a showstopper for the Adelsons. And if Trump wanted to keep getting the money, that this was a quid pro quo. We knew that at the time.
And in his mind, it's the cost of doing business. That's how he looks at it. That's how he interprets it. So we'll finish it up.
Miriam, stand up, please. She really is. I mean, she loves this country. She loves this country. Her and her husband are so incredible. We miss him so dearly. But I actually asked her, I'm going to get her in trouble with this, but I actually asked her once, I said, "So Miriam, I know you love Israel. What do you love more, the United States or Israel?" She refused to answer. That might mean Israel. I must say. We love you. Thank you, darling, for being here. That's a great honor. Great honor. She's a wonderful woman.
So the president just told us that representatives that are paying for his time from a foreign nation have commanded policy by him. Like it's totally clear. Like I appreciate the transparency.
Because we had years and years during which time we were told that the Russian government is trying to influence the president and is trying to control the outcome of our elections. And we don't need any evidence. We don't need secret files that have been, by some secret agent who's working on behalf of some shadowy foreign government. No, we just have the U.S. president tell us directly. My political policy choices are directly controlled by a foreign agent. I mean, that's what we just witnessed.
Yes, I think it was. I appreciate that. That's why I always appreciate his candor with these matters.
Yeah. Well, That's not the only thing he had to say. It gets even worse.
Oh no!
Right here.
What more?
These two men are good men right here.
No.
Hey, I have an idea. Mr. President, why don't you give him a pardon?
Huh?
Give him a pardon.
So that people who don't necessarily know what we're listening to. So that's Trump asking Herzog, who's the president of Israel, to pardon Milikowski for what he's being tried for there, which is bribes, which is just corrupt, which here doesn't even make the news. So he was like, he took like $100,000 or something, and there's like a corruption lawsuit. And so that's all they're talking about. They're not even talking about that he's doing a Holocaust.
The only thing worse than genocide in Israel is accepting cigars and champagne as bribes.
Clearly.
Now, what's remarkable about that clip is that it does indicate some amount of awareness on the part of Donald Trump that the war is probably not going to end. Because ask yourself this, why is Trump asking Herzog to pardon Netanyahu? Because Trump knows very, very well that Netanyahu can't ever lose an election again. And he can't even go up for an election again, because that might mean he would lose a potential election. Like, he has to stay in power until he dies. Like that's basically what has to happen now. Or because what will happen if he loses power and is out of government, then he no longer has protection as prime minister. He can't be convicted of a crime as sitting prime minister. So he has immunity. But as soon as he's no longer prime minister, he will face charges of, he has 3 outstanding cases: bribery, corruption, and breach of public trust. He will return to court where he no longer has protection. He's out of power. And we've all seen what happens to ex-Israeli prime ministers when they lose power. Ehud Olmert, for example, he wound up in prison. What will happen to Netanyahu? Well, he will go to prison. That's what will happen. The Israeli public doesn't like him. He's very unpopular. He obviously has
genocide, mind you.
Yeah, sorry. Just to be very, very clear.
Yeah.
His unpopularity has nothing to do with the genocide.
No.
Most Jewish Israelis have no qualms about Israel's actions in the Gaza Strip.
Exactly. That's what's just so, it's sort of like lawyers, like what you have to do to get disbarred. It's like, you could kill people, they won't disbar you. But if you misappropriate client money, then they'll disbar you. It's only about the money.
Right.
That's true. Well, let's end tonight on a positive note, because the one thing that we have seen constantly over the past week, nonstop, is let's just say the dehumanizing of the Palestinian people, because everything is all about the handful of Israelis. And again, I use that term loosely. They are all Ashkenazis as far as I'm concerned. And they're returning home, but no one wants to talk about the Palestinians. Well, let's not forget that they are human as well, despite what the Zionist news brigade would have you believe. They definitely care. We care, I should say. And this is just a small snippet of some of the freed Palestinians, several Palestinians that have been in far worse conditions than the Israelis have been in over the past 2 years.
20 years. 20 years is massive. That's 20 years.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean,
it's infuriating.
What you just saw was illegal, by the way, because Palestinians were banned from celebrating.
I know.
Can you imagine? No. Just try to imagine this for a second. Palestinians dropping leaflets over Tel Aviv saying you're not allowed to celebrate. I mean, this is probably the most euphoric night. The day the Israeli captives were released was probably the most. If you listen to Israeli Jews talk about the scenes in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem on that night, you're talking about a euphoria like Israel has never seen in its entire history. At the same time that Israel bans Palestinians from celebrating the release of their own captives.
They're just evil. They're so evil. I mean, I saw one of the returning hostages that came home, and he had been told that his whole family was killed, that his wife was dead, that his kids were dead, and they weren't. And so I saw him come home, which was he was amazing, but that's like some level of sick shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's so evil.
And we saw the prisoners released missing limbs. We saw a prisoner released blind. We saw prisoners released completely famished. We saw a prisoner released who couldn't walk, who had to be carried from the bus to an ambulance.
Yeah.
That's the state of the Palestinians who are being released from Israel's torture dungeons.
And the Israelis, on the other hand, have looked pretty good, considering, rations and supplies were probably scarce.
No one is, there's no government imposing a siege on the state of Israel, preventing all food, all water, all medicine, all fuel from entering the state of Israel for months and months and months and months.
Yeah.
And yet, Israel starves every Palestinian prisoner. While at the same time, you have these captives held in Gaza, and they come out not as famished as the Palestinians do. I mean, explain that one to me.
They're also not tortured. And I would also argue that those aren't hostages. Those are actually prisoners of war. The women were all pretty much released, except for the ones that did die. But the people that were the last remaining Israeli prisoners are prisoners of war. They were all military.
Yes, I think some of so my understanding is that there were a few who were active duty soldiers. I think the others were either in reserves or maybe off duty soldiers. But you're absolutely right; they were all of military age and either on duty or off duty or in reserve. So I mean, as compared to the 1,700 Palestinian hostages, zero of whom have committed any offense at all. Many of whom are women and children, all of whom have been kidnapped and abducted and tortured and starved, many of them raped, sexually abused. It's actually night and day. And yet if you watch mainstream media, you would think the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Which is why it is our obligation now more than ever, because again, one of the worst parts about this fake ceasefire is that a lot of people are going to go back to sleep on this issue. Pretend like it's over now. We don't have to focus on it. Now more than ever, we need to focus on it because it's only going to get worse. But we have many tasks ahead, if you will, on the home front. So it is our job to continue to collaborate with individuals like yourself, Zach. Also, I saw you speaking with a lady that we would love to get on the channel, Novi, I think is how you say her name.
Yeah, her name is Noah Avishag. Yes, I'd be happy to connect you to her.
Thank you.
Yeah, she was on one of the flotillas. And of course, it's not going to end. There's going to be more flotillas.
No.
Eventually. It's not. The night is always darkest before the dawn.
It's not stopping.
No. So as long as we stick together and as long as we put ideological differences aside on, face it, wedge issues is usually the issue anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah.
We figure out how to collaborate properly, we will win the day. It's going to be hard to do, but there is an opportunity here for us to win. And so with that said, it is always a pleasure to have you on.
That's Lila. That's Lila from Punch Up Pod. Hello.
Peace.
And if you have any final thoughts before you go, please share. And it was great to have you as always.
No, I just want to say thank you guys for doing all the amazing work that you do. And thank you so much again for having me.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you,
Appreciate
Zach.
you, brother.
Love
Bye.
you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Have a great evening. Yeah. He's a great guest, and we have a lot of great guests.
Oh, it's nice. It's nice. It's nice for me to be around Jewish people and not have to sit there and wonder if they're psychotic, because that's what plagues me where I am now. Like I see the people walking to, shul on Saturday, or, it's Simchat Torah or whatever the holiday is right now. And I see them walking, and it bothers me immensely that I'm sitting there and wondering if they are or not psychotic.
No, they probably are.
Well, that's why I don't engage. And it really sucks. It sucks because, for so long, they've called people like us self-loathing Jews, but I want to be very clear. I'm Zio-loathing. I don't hate myself. I think I'm swell. So it's like the loathing that I have is for them. So it's not a self thing. What'd you say? I'm all right.
I said you're okay.
All right. I'm sorry I was a cuntosaurus to you before.
You'll be one again in another day or two.
I'm sure, but that's all right. I mean, I think you overreacted to the situation, but I definitely was being a cuntosaur.
If you guys enjoy us hating each other, please go to patreon.com/revolutionary change. For as little as $5 a month, you could become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel. As I said about an hour or so ago, we didn't even get a chance to celebrate getting to 75,000 subscribers. We are at 77,000 subscribers. We might actually have a chance to have Jen live long enough for us to get another 23,000 subscribers and pass the 100,000 marker, which would give us a silver plaque. Who doesn't want a silver plaque?
I still think it's discretionary, which always makes me think it's the number. I mean, the plaque is cool and all, I guess, but it's like, I don't really need acknowledgement from Google.
Well, it does look like a nice thing, and it gives a little bit of credibility, which is never a bad thing. Chip, always a pleasure. Thank you for the $5. As Moon Rabin, how do you say his name?
Moon Rabani? Moon Rabani.
The bell cannot be unrung. CBS is a dinosaur anyway, and there are too many other social media channels to shut down. That is true, but they're going to try to shut them all down. Chip has $5 more to give us. Zionism is heretical by definition because it places man before God.
Yes. That's what Rabbi Shapiro was talking about, that it's idol worship. He was comparing it to idol worship. So, yeah.
That's a great point. Big dumb animal. Great to see you.
Oh, big dumb animal.
Thank you for the $4.99 for reminding me to stay angry. Well, it's not about staying angry. It's about staying vigilant.
No, I'm so angry. But I will tell you the beautiful part about being angry is, and it was so cute that I saw an elderly woman that was being interviewed at one of the protests I want to say it was in the UK, and someone asked her if she was scared, and it was the same answer I've given. I'm too angry to be scared. So if I weren't so angry, then I'd probably be scared. So I kind of feel like that's what helps.
Alex Scott Mittens, thank you for the $2. Spotify just banned Nick Fuentes. Not surprised. This is how they're going to deal with thought leaders that they don't like.
Okay, I saw something in here that made me think of something funny. Do you still have super chats?
Yeah.
Okay. No, go ahead. I just wanted to tell you something funny that I saw that I just think was really funny.
I will most likely address Fuentes on Saturday. We'll figure out how we're going to do that. But yes, again, censorship. This is why we've been saying that you better follow what the fuck we're talking about, because they're going to come for everybody. If you think they're going to stop with Fuentes, with anyone with a big platform, everyone's on the fucking chopping block. They can't stop what's coming. And the only way they know is to just shut people up. Because when you have the money and the power, you do not interpret the law, or it's not even interpreting the law. You just don't follow the law. The law is for the commoners. It is not for the rulers. That's how it is.
The law only exists for the oppressor to keep us oppressed. That's the only reason it's there.
Correct. BG with the $1.99, 1-800-JARED. Call now. Waterfront lots available. I don't know if that's a joke or not, but it probably isn't. There probably is some truth to that.
Well, yes. I don't think that's the phone number.
That's probably not the phone number, but they are selling land plots in Gaza for you to come and build. Smotrich just said as much. Hey, you want a place in Gaza? We got it for you. Don't worry about what they're saying. We'll take care of you. That's what they're doing.
I could vomit.
John Kelly with the $9.99. Thank you very much. Love you too. Please keep talking. All politicians are primarily for sale to the highest bidder. Never surprised. Yes, that is correct.
Facts.
That should not surprise anybody. It's when the person isn't corrupted by the system that is the surprise. And that's not the way the system should be. So we're trying to change that. Alex Scott Mittens with the $5. Why, Richard? It profits a man nothing to give his soul for the whole world, but for whales, in this case, Israel. St. Thomas More.
Yeah, that's what they want. They were wanting you to give that. I think he put that up when we were talking about the synagogue basically wanting human sacrifice.
Yes. Good
for
point.
Izzy Hill.
Mocracy. Thank you for the 199. You see Mike Huckabee live song Israel Home Alabama?
Yeah,
Sweet home. What was it?
Let me tell you, okay? And I don't know how many, if any, are surviving members of Leonard Skinner. I don't know, okay? That
Didn't they all die in a plane crash?
They didn't all die. I don't think they all died. Did they all die in the same crash?
they all
Maybe
did.
that's possible. But somebody, whoever owns the rights to that music, needs to do something about that.
Shit out of them.
Their children or their whatever, but somebody should file charges about that.
Yeah, and what the hell did they call it again? Sweet Home
Jerusalem or something, or
something like that.
I can't.
Not only are they genocidal maniacs,
oh, it's
they're
crazy.
weird and they're losers. They are socially inept losers like Ben Shapiro.
Well, that's why it's a haven for pedophiles too, because where else can socially awkward but yet pedophilia accepted animals go? They go to Ziohel.
Navy EOD vet, thank you for the 499.
That's the Palestinian flag. It's the Palestinian. Yeah.
Free Palestine indeed, and a little bit of a Sophie lookalike. A little bit.
Yeah.
John Kelly with the 199. Thank you very, very much. Chip again with the $2. The kibbutz were
The kibbutzes.
The kibbutzes.
Well, we say it's kibbutzim.
Kibbutzim were all created as military bases. I thought they were all peace-giving.
No.
So much for that.
No.
Alex Godmittens with the $2. As always, thank you for your videos. Thank you for your support. And John Kelly again with the $9.99. Keep up the great work. Hope better days are coming. They are, but it's going to probably be a while before they do. We just have a lot. There's a lot that we have to fight for going forward. Yeah. Sailor Jerry Swallow with the 2 Canadian A. I missed the show, but you're here now.
You're here now, and you can go back and watch. Clips will be out.
And last but certainly not least, one of our favorites, Lila with the $5 from Punch Up Pod. Subscribe to Punch Up Pod if you guys are not currently subscribed. You two are amazing. So grateful to be in this fight.
I don't know what happened to them last night. Why did you guys not have a show last night? Are you traveling? Yeah. I don't know. I know, but it was like Wednesday night, and it was kind of harsh for me.
Lila, for somebody who has been in the entertainment industry, if you haven't seen the clip that Joseph Gordon-Levitt had put out, and we discussed it at the top, it is very revealing how thin-skinned shit-libs really are.
She's in Minnesota.
She's in
Minnesota.
We've got one more story to cover before we go. Now, I thought this was a story that I was going to wait until Saturday to cover, but Jen decided that, nope, actually, I want in on this one.
I sent it to you.
You did, but I was aware of it, and I told you that.
But I watched, and guys, there is a long-form version of what we're showing you, and I highly recommend you check it out. But this is friend of the show, James Lee, if that's what you're talking about.
So anyone who is curious as to what the actual outcome is going to be of the Charlie Kirk saga.
Oh, yes.
It's not really a question of whether or not you get the right answer. It's whether or not you actually believe the narrative that you've been sold. And if you believe anything that comes from this government, can't help you. James Lee is going to show you yet another example of why what you've been told happened to Charlie Kirk is anything but the truth.
Ask you a question. When was the first time you heard the name Tyler Robinson or the Losi Center, a Mauser 98? For me, and I assume many of you, it was in the days and weeks after Charlie Kirk's tragic assassination on September 10th. And you better believe I've been doing some Googling since then, right? Who is Tyler? What are the access points to the Losi Center rooftop? What kind of damage can a .30-06 caliber bullet do? But what if I told you somebody, maybe multiple somebodies, were searching those terms before September 10th? What do you think about that?
Before the shooting. Well, there's Washington, D.C.
Huh.
At 11 a.m., the day before the Charlie Kirk shooting.
Huh.
And you'll see here where the news finally broke that it was, in fact, Tyler James Robinson. But notice that. That's weird. That's weird.
That is weird, I gotta say. Why would anybody be searching the name Tyler James Robinson one day before he allegedly assassinated Charlie Kirk?
And in Washington, D.C., no less.
Because he's a patsy. He was a patsy the second they said that he did it. He was a patsy the second they started to question it. He's a patsy now, and he's probably going to be a dead patsy in the not too distant future, depending on where this ends up going.
Yeah.
I didn't need anybody to tell me.
No. It's just more evidence. And again, I've said it from the beginning. My opinion on this is that I know for a fact that what they're saying is not true. That's the only thing I know for sure, is that what they're saying is not true. Everything else is just more and more evidence as to what it could be. But we know what they're selling us is bullshit.
We knew from the very beginning.
Oh,
this is bullshit.
Completely.
As soon as they said that they had a person, it was bullshit. Because in the early stages, when everything is kind of scattered, scrambling, kind of like I pointed out with what happened with Andrew Colvett and his lookalike Cooper Brown, who jumped in front of the camera when one of the witnesses to the assassination started talking about what was happening, and they shut him up and dragged him away from the camera, physically dragged him away from it. And then you find out that there was a private jet that took off from an abandoned airport, from an empty airport in which they had grounded all flights out of Salt Lake City. And in the meantime, this jet was able to take off.
Well, let it keep playing, because that's the thing. It's more than just looking up Tyler Robinson, right? James goes deeper than that.
100%. Here we go.
The data point is just a tiny blip, but it's there. Tyler James Robinson, right? A name that nobody knew of prior to September 12th, 2 days after the shooting, when the media told us who Tyler James Robinson was, right? A supposed 22-year-old leftist who hated Charlie Kirk. So what does that little Google trend blip mean? Well, I did some research using Google Gemini, and they say Google Trends, what it does is normalize search interest to the region you select. The formula is search interest equals total searches in the region and time divided by total searches for the term. So when you look at things from a nationwide context, the total number of searches is enormous. The small handful of searches for Tyler James Robinson on September 9th is so tiny, a fraction of all the U.S. searches, that it gets rounded down to zero. But then when you zoom in a D.C. context, if you filter for the District of Columbia, the total search volume is much, much smaller. So if a few searches for Tyler James Robinson on September 9th originated in the D.C. area, then this handful of searches becomes a significant enough proportion of all D.C. searches on that day to register a value of 18 out of 100. Then it says, and this part is critical, quote, the fact that the searches are localized to D.C., a city synonymous with the federal government, intelligence, national media, and political organizations, strongly shifts the interpretation away from random noise or perpetrator checking his own name, from an ambiguous anomaly into a strong potential signal of pre-event institutional knowledge or activity.
Fascinating.
It's not fascinating. It's exactly what we anticipated that it was going to be. You know, we have become so accustomed to seeing things happen before anybody necessarily realizes it, that by the time they do, it's like we're telling them, well, we told you so. We told you this was what it was going to be.
We knew it was bullshit. But so is this clip is just him talking about the search for the name, right?
That's right.
Okay, so guys, go to 5149 with James Lee and watch the clip that he did, because there's actually 3 other searches. There were 4 searches in total that are all extremely suspicious.
Just the fact,
that first was the name, but yeah.
And just the fact that the information that we are receiving is coming directly, not just from him, but the fact that what he had found is that it came directly from a very small blip in the search engine out of DC. And where the fuck do you think it was coming from? It was coming from the NSA and the CIA. That's how this works. We live in an era today where 60 years ago, You can assassinate the president of the United States and sweep it under the rug. You can sweep the two leading black voices in the United States and convince people that patsies did it. And then you can assassinate the president's brother, who almost assuredly would have won the presidency in 68 if he was the nominee, and he was going to be the nominee. But that's history. Today, you can't get away with it.
Can I show you? Can we bring back? I want to bring this back for a second and just say something. Can someone explain to me how his ear is completely non-scarred, non-scathed? There's nothing. And I even saw somebody do a close-up of it. I'm just curious for a friend.
Well, who's just to say that he didn't have some type of a graft done, which is possible? I mean, it's
bullshit. Bullshit. Okay. I call bullshit. I called bullshit then for that false flag that was staged as the photo op that it was. There have been way too many clips of that after the fact that it was always, that was a total bullshit thing. And isn't it interesting that we've never spoken again about the guy? Like it's never even come up again. Like it just sort of went away as soon as the photo op was done. No, there is no way that that ear was shot. That's just stupid. Sorry, don't buy it. I didn't buy it then, and I definitely buy it less now. So
well,
there you go.
I'm not okay. Well, again, I'm not. I don't know what to think. I am suspicious as well, but I don't know.
All I'm saying is that that is not somebody who was shot in the ear. I've met more people from when my kid did jujitsu that had cauliflower ear. That shit doesn't go away easily. When you get ear shit with the cartilage, that stuff does not heal easily, and it doesn't look like that. It just doesn't. So, bullshit.
Got one more clip from James, so here we go.
Show you a set of coincidences for you to ponder, but for my safety and your safety, please do not come to any conclusions. Deal? Cool. This is Tyler James
why are
Robinson,
you playing it again?
the alleged shooter of Charlie Kirk, who
why are you
one of us now knows by name. According to Google Trends, somebody, maybe multiple, in the DC metro area was searching for Tyler James Robinson one day before the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Okay, you see this big spike over here. That's on September 12th. That's when we all found out through the news who he was and started Googling his name. But this small spike on September 9th, that's kind of weird, don't you think? Now, what about the Losi Center, the building where Tyler Robinson allegedly shot Charlie Kirk from? Well, again, for some reason, a small number of people in the Washington, D.C. area was Googling Losi Center 2 days prior to Charlie Kirk's assassination, September 8th, 2025. What is that?
Whoa.
You've got to be, I mean,
you didn't see this part, right? That's what I was telling you. There's 4 searches that are very unusual.
I mean, you got to be shitting me.
No. So that's why it's not just the kid's name. Keep going. That's what I was trying to tell you.
That all about? Once again, this is when we all heard about it, and some group of people over here 2 days prior was, just having fun Googling Losi Center. Now, what about a Mauser 98? You've heard of that? Well, evidently there was pretty much no interest in the Mauser 98 until August 27th, when somebody, once again, in DC was like, I am curious about the Mauser 98. Once again, to reiterate, these are all just coincidences. And since this information has gone viral, people are now reporting that all of that data has now been scrubbed. And so this is what it looks like now. Nothing to see here.
The 4th thing was the
Israel.
Google search. What?
It was Israel, right?
No, the 4th search that was part of what he had done, I saw something about, was about the plane. That plane that had taken off. That people were talking about, that was the 4th search, that there was an anomaly as to it had to do with the company that owned that plane. There was some other very strange search having to do with that before.
Well, I think what some people in the chat are saying, because Jimmy Dore covered it the other day, the same story, and is basically saying that there is a direct connection to Israel with this story. And
all roads lead that's the end road for sure. Absolutely.
And it always will be. So again, there's nothing to see here except your lying eyes. So don't fall for it. It is our job. Oh, so Jimmy did the video today. And yeah.
That's
again,
what, I mean, it's just, there's, you know, one search maybe is a coincidence, right? Four? That's, you know, I mean, that's just not a coincidence, you know? So who, now at the end of the road, I absolutely believe it's Zio State. Absolutely. I just don't know. I don't know the logistics. That's what I'm very open to interpretation on logistics.
Well, we certainly know why. Keep your mouth shut. Don't get out of line. And you'll
Don't
live.
bite the hand that feeds you.
No. 1984 is coming alive, guys. If you haven't read the book, please do. Marvin Vargas, thank you for the 199. Would you have Ken O'Keefe on? Yes, we are actually trying to get Ken O'Keefe on as we speak. Working on it. He's checking us out, is what he said.
This is interesting. Huh.
Of course he did. There's no coincidences.
That's
Actually,
what I mean.
Excuse me. I don't want our channel to get shut down.
Okay.
Everything's a coincidence.
It's all coincidental. Although I would suggest that there have been criminal convictions on a lot less circumstantial evidence.
Well, just remember, all vaccines are safe and effective. Always listen to the government because they definitely know what's best for us. And always believe what corporate interests want, which is you can't afford healthcare, you can't be educated, you can't drink clean water, you can't breathe clean air, and war is forever, and American empire is forever. I would say that maybe we should be willing to question it.
I question everything now. I'm so far off the end at this point. Like I didn't tell you about the book I'm currently listening to because I'm going to invite him on, the guy who wrote
what a perfect way to end the show from our friend I Am the Anomaly. If they're black, then it's a gang. If they're Italian, it's the mob. But if they're Jewish, it's a coincidence and you should never speak about it. Dave Chappelle. Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do. And as Lila suggests, question everything. We appreciate you all.
So everybody head over to Punch Up Pod. Go over to Punch Up Pod. I hope they're doing their show. Lila, are you doing your show in a minute? Anyhow, yeah, free Palestine.
Have a good night, guys. I'll see you Saturday.